The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
Sweet anticipation is giving me the butterflies, and my heart beats racing, 'cause loving you is beautiful, and you're so irresistible. So don't stop what you're doing, baby, so good, and it drives me crazy. One touch, I'm in heaven, yeah, 'cause loving you so beautiful, baby, 'cause you are all I need to get me through. Like a falling star, I fell for you. Taught me how to love, an angel sent from high above, and now I know that all I need is you.
You're a fan.
I've got a mouth for the sausage.
Thought I knew what love was. I always ended up in tears. Just the way my world was, until you walked into my life. It's something that I just can't hide. Real love has come my way, and I know that it's here to stay, and it feels like never before. 'Cause loving you so beautiful, baby, 'cause you are all I need to get me through.
You're a fan. It's Council Brexit.
Like a falling star, I fell for you.
I'm David Babcock and I got my Willie stuck in the hook of the hole on.
You have taught me how to love, an angel sent from high above. Now I know that all I need is you.
You're a fan.
You're my inspiration. My world just seems a brighter place.
You can do it.
I just wanna tell you,
Rap pussy.
never ever felt this way.
It's not true.
I never thought I'd see the day. Real love has come my way, and I know
Are you real?
that it's here to stay, and it feels
Who's that?
like never before.
Justin.
Loving you so beautiful, baby, 'cause you are all I need to get me through.
I need your help. Rap pussy.
Like a falling star, I fell for you. I fell for you. You have taught me how to love.
You're a fan.
An angel sent from high above. And now I know that all I need is you. All I need to get me through.
It wasn't even good enough to be shit.
Here we go. Yes. Start as you mean to. What's the phrase? Start. Here, hang on a minute. It's going to go. Hang on a minute. Let's. Can't remember. Let's forget that. Okay, right. Good evening, dear listener. Late Night Alternative. Iain Lee is back. Catherine Boyle is there.
Whoops.
Well done. We've got Amy on the phones. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Here's the thing, right? New listeners every single day once they realise what a car crash LBC has become. Is it too shouty for you? Tough. Once they realise what a car crash LBC has become, we're just getting more and more listeners all the time. In fact, we're getting too many listeners. We may have to stop that at some point. But if you're waiting for a question, if you're waiting for the topic, if you're waiting for the things, what's it about tonight, so I can pick up the telephone and call in. There is no thing. There's no thing. And if you put those two together, you get the word nothing. So there is nothing. At the moment, after 11 there will be. We're going to talk about sexual predators in art. But before that, there's no thing. There's nothing. So you are welcome to call in about absolutely anything you want. And the phone number is very, very simple. It's free for the majority of you. It may cost you pennies if you've got a lousy package. But don't worry, because you'll speak to Amy. She takes your name and number, doesn't ask what you're calling in about, takes your name and number and calls you straight back and puts you on the radio. This call is on us, dear listener. 0344 499 1000. 0344 499 1000. That's the phone number. Why don't you try it, see if it works, you slackers. Thank you to almost everybody who came to see Catherine and myself in Brighton at the weekend. Great show. Filthy show. Very, very blue. Lot of adult material. Lot of jokes for the dads. And thank you to almost everybody that came. I say almost everybody. There were quite a few people who came late because there was a football match on. Some of them came late because of a football match. Some came late because they'd just been drinking in another bar.
But fortunately, they came in quietly and they didn't make a big show of themselves all the way through.
Here's the thing. If you come into a show late, right, first of all, don't just sit there giving me skunk eye all night, as one young lady did. And then secondly, don't sit in the front row, not laughing, talking to the person you've come in late with. And at the end, then during the interval, dump your bags in the corner on what we laughingly called the stage, but it was the performance area. So then at the end of the show, when we've said to people, hey, if you want to come and get a photograph, you can before we pack everything up. So you then wander onto the stage and I say, oh, do you want a photo? No, I'm not that desperate. That's rude. That's ill-mannered. And, we got your 14 quid and I'm tempted to give it back. I don't want that 14 quid. I've spent it actually, so you can't have it back. But that was rude. That was ill-mannered of her, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. We can, some of you like to have your hands held as we do these radio shows and like to be suggested topics. Although when I listened to Catherine last week throwing out gold topics, Catherine,
oh, gold after gold.
None of these screwballs went for them, and that's fine. That's fine. That's 3 years of education. And by the way, welcome to season 4 of the Late Night Alternative. That's right, guys. I just got another 12-month contract. So everybody who said I wasn't going to last 20 minutes, go on, in your face. Catherine's contract is only 2 months long. That's for her to deal with. That's absolutely nish, nada, nero to do with me. Nothing to do with me whatsoever. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. So you can talk about rudeness in theatres, rudeness at live events, a-holes, and being late for events. There you go. There are 4 topics we've just thrown out just like that. And do you know what? None of you will pick them up, and none of you will run with them. Rude guests. Did you hear Bob Mills last night?
No.
It was good. It was a weird show, right? His first guest didn't turn up, so the first hour was just Bob Mills talking, which I could listen to, because I love it. But sometimes I kind of prefer it. So the first guest on Bob Mills, Sunday night, 7 to 10, it's a great listen, didn't turn up. So he had nothing for the first... They phoned up. They phoned him up, apparently, and said, I've just missed my train. Can I come in next week? And Bob, or the producer, went, it don't really work like that. We're kind of full next week, and we were kind of banking on you not missing your train and coming in for the first hour so you could promote your book. So that was weird. And then in the last 45 minutes, did anyone else hear this? In the last 45 minutes, he had Angus Dayton on.
Okay.
My God, what a miserable man.
Oh, really?
What a really grumpy, I'm going to say it, slightly rude interview.
You'd think after what he's been through, he'd be grateful for a bit of positivity.
Yeah. And what was interesting was Bob was obviously kept hinting at that. You know, the coconut hookers. Kept hinting that that's kind of sort of where he wanted to go. And Angus was having none of it. Fair play. And that's fair enough. It's fair enough. But if I'd have had the 35 minutes of being shut down... And by the way, if you heard it, dear listener, have I got this wrong? Because I fell asleep, then I woke up and heard it. So maybe I got it wrong. But I heard Angus Dayton being rude, right? And if after 35 minutes of being shut down, being, you know, given the kind of squirm, I'd have gone, all right, Angus, okay. So this cocaine and hookers thing, let's talk about that.
Yeah, what's to lose? What's
to lose? I mean, he walks out, you got a better interview than the first 35 minutes. I thought he was rude. I thought he was really rude. It was a really... I could hear Bob... I think they know each other a little bit.
Right.
I don't know if he was doing a thing, but I could really hear Bob scrabbling for material. That's not like Bob Mills at all.
The deal is this: do the interview, don't do the interview, but don't come in and do it begrudgingly.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I don't know if you heard it, dear listener. Maybe have a listen tomorrow if you get the chance. I think you've got more important things to do. It's Easter holiday, for crying out loud. But if you heard it, dear listener, am I right? 0344 499 1000. And then I fell asleep again, and then I woke up during Howard Hughes' show, 10 till 1, Sunday night, The Unexplained. And he had, I'm not swearing anymore on air. I'm trying not to swear anymore on air. So he had a bullshiner on. He had a guy, an American guy, talking about remote viewing, where you lie in a bed. Stay there, Anne. You're going to be the first cab off the rank in a minute. You have you lie on your bed, and you can see stuff around the world, right? And this guy would explain it. And Howard has this strange thing he does. Well, when someone's explained something, he goes, oh, I get it. You mean like... And then he kind of does a different explanation, right? And every time he did it, the guy would go, no, Howard, I think you've misunderstood. Let me try and simplify it for you. Okay, have you seen the movie The Matrix? Right? This is his simplification
That's simplifying it, is
This
it?
is his simplification of remote viewing.
Wow.
Have you seen the movie The Matrix? Well, you know when all the information gets downloaded on the screen and it goes very, very quickly. Well, it's like that. Ah, I get it. So it's what... No, Harold, you're not quite getting it. Bear it in mind, this guy was talking out of his butt, just making stuff up. Because here's the thing, dear listener, remote viewing isn't real. It's not real. And then he's going... So Howard's going, have you got any evidence that this works? Well, yes, I do. You remember Gulf War II, when Saddam Hussein was in hiding? Well, I was teaching a remote viewing class, and some members of the CIA came up to me during the break and said, can you help us find Saddam Hussein? And I said, sure. And I could see, I saw Saddam Hussein hiding in a dark place with another guy. And a few days later, he was found hiding in a dark place with another guy.
I mean, that's a fairly safe guess, though, isn't it?
Was outrageous.
Wow.
And this guy got an hour of radio. Hear those radios switching off because it's gone all shouty again. Tough, that's the act. It'll go quiet in a bit. Deal with it. I haven't been on air for a week. I'm excited. Oh, Kath. Yeah, I heard. Oh, Kath, I like talking to you because at least we can get a word in edgeways. You suckers. I like listening to you, Kath, because it's not so shouty. I get stuff, you screwbags. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. This is the Late Night Alternative. I am Iain Lee. Catherine Boyle is here. You can phone up about absolutely anything you want. But so far we've got rudeness at shows, rocking up late, rude guests, there's a rude vibe going on, and remote viewing. There are four perfectly good topics for you. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
0344 499 1000 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. First cab off the rank. This week, it's Anne. Good evening, Anne.
Oh, hello there, Ian.
Well, hello there, Anne.
Yeah, a bit nervous.
Oh, me too. I haven't done this for a week. I forget how to do it. But I am rocking and a rolling, rocking and a reeling, Barbara. Anne, what have you got for us?
I don't know now.
Oh.
You were saying about LBC losing some custom, you know.
LBC have lost a lot of listeners. They've realised that the jig is up, and they're panicking. They're panicking. They're firing several of their presenters.
In fact, they lost a caller last week, didn't they, Anne? Because you were trying to phone them and you phoned me instead.
Oh,
and that's where we bagged her from.
Beautiful, Anne. Welcome aboard the happy ship.
I have to admit, though, I do like listening to Steve Allen to some extent.
He's a prick.
His observation of life.
No, he's not. He's a bully. I'll do it because he's been slagging me off this week. Listen, the guy's a bully. He thinks it's funny to fat shame people. He thinks it's funny to mock mental health. He thinks it's funny to mock addiction. The guy's a bully. He's a cast-off from the olden days. We need to do everything we can to get poison like that off the air. We'll have none of that on this show. This show's about celebration and about life and about joy. It's not about bullying people because they might have a problem with food. Anyway, Anne, what can we do for you this evening?
Well, I just wanted to say that, he does go a little bit heavy on people.
Do you know what? I don't even want to pollute my listeners' ears with the poison from that bilious old goat. So let's not even talk about that a-hole of a human being. What have you called in for? Have you got anything else to offer apart from that? We'll say good night, and thank you very much indeed. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Paul. Good evening, Paul.
Hello.
Hello, Paul.
That's me. Yeah, I was ringing to talk about all those pictures on the computer.
Yes, I heard you speaking to Catherine the other week. Yes, Paul. Now, tell me about these pictures on your computer, because I was listening in my log cabin and I was a little bit confused by it.
You had the pictures in your studio, apparently.
No, we don't. We don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, we don't. We don't have any of your pictures. We don't have access to your computer.
No, not my pictures. Well, there, I did... the computer pictures on the computer.
Paul, I need you to listen to me very, very carefully. We're even going to stop the Vitamin String Quartet play and go your own way. I need you to listen to me very, very... yeah, sure, why not, Amy? I need you to listen to me very, very carefully, because I'm going to say something that's important, and it's true. Yep. We don't have any pictures like that. We don't have any videos like that. We haven't seen anything. We would have no access to those things. So those images are safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have to say on the matter. Those images are safe.
Great.
So you don't need to worry about that. That's one thing you can chuck off your worry list. You don't need to worry about that, Paul.
Great.
Good.
Great. Can I get them back?
We don't have them, Paul. If they exist, you will have them somewhere. We definitely do not have them. Okay, I can promise you that.
They were stolen off me.
Well, then I suggest you go. I suggest you go to the police, because neither Catherine nor myself nor anybody at Talk Radio has those pictures, my friend. I promise you. Okay, you have a sincere, solemn promise from me.
Okay.
So that's one less thing to worry about. All right, ma'am. All right, Paul. You take care, fellas. Thanks for your call.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. There we go. I heard that gentleman speaking to you last week, Catherine.
Yeah.
And I thought you handled it brilliantly. I was in bed listening with my boy, and it was very, very funny to start with, because it was funny. First 2 or 3 minutes were funny.
Yeah, but then I realised there was real confusion there.
You and I clocked it, I think, at about the same time. That was obviously a very disturbed... take the word very out. That was obviously a disturbed gentleman who was worrying about something that he didn't need to worry about.
Exactly.
And I thought... And it was funny. The first 2 or 3 minutes were funny. If you laughed, there's no shame in that, because it was funny.
Yeah, he caught me on the hop.
But once we... and Catherine hopping is funny. But once you realised that there was perhaps more to it, there was an issue, shall we say, I thought you dealt with it beautifully. I enjoyed listening to you last week. I thought you did a great job. And I don't mean that I always knew you would do a great job. But I can never normally listen. When I'm off on holiday, I can't listen because I'm jealous. Particularly if it's like another man with my Catherine. You know, if it's Jamie East. I've never heard of Jamie East doing this show. Never heard, not Rudolph. Rufus Hound. I've never heard him do the show. I heard a bit of Tommy Boyd doing the show once, and that's what made me think, why the hell is Catherine not doing the show when I go on holiday? Seems obvious. And so last week was the first time in 15 years of doing radio that I was excited and able to switch on and listen for the first hour each night. Pretty much, I think one night I switched off at 10:30. My eldest boy was listening one night. He got in bed. He got in bed. We hired a log cabin, right? Which makes it sound more rustic than it actually was. It was quite luxurious. But one night, about 10 to 10, he came in. I said, dude, go and sleep in your own bed. Me a lonely man. His line was, me a lonely man. I said, all right, lonely man, just this once. Come on, buddy, get in. My kids were coming out with the funniest lines last week. My 7-year-old, there was a hot tub, right? It's a log cabin in the woods. It's like a resort, so there's like 60 of them. It wasn't Centre Parks. It was another one. And each one had a log cabin out, a hot tub outside. We had the weirdest weather. We had snow, we had heat, it was weird.
And through all of that, they were naked in the hot tub.
As soon as we got into the cabin, right, and I was dragging the bags in, I turned around, both boys were naked. I said, what are you doing? Where's the hot tub? And they got in the hot tub straight away. And when they were in the hot tub, I said, we'd been driving for a couple of hours, and I said, right, well, let me get you a drink. And they had some champagne flutes, plastic champagne flutes, and I had some orange juice. So I thought it'd be funny to get a picture of them in the hot tub with champagne glasses. So I gave them the glasses, and then I put my swimmers on, and I got in. And my 7-year-old turned round, he had this glass, and he turned round to me and offered me the glass and went, more champagne, beautiful? And that became his catchphrase for the whole thing. More champagne, beautiful. And then he would also go, when he had a really nice meal, and he went, you know, they added just a touch of voila. And he was coming out with the funniest lines. And here's 0344 499 1000, by the way. Here's the thing I learnt this week with my 7 and 9-year-old, right? And I will bore you with some of the stories of what happened, because this is my life. But here's the thing I learnt, right? I've always known I love them, right? I've always known I love them, right? And I love them more every single day. And it's one of those things, you know what it's like, Kath. You think you've reached the maximum love for your kids, and then just the next, every day, it just gets a little bit bigger, and a little bit more. It's quite frightening how it just keeps going up. You think you've maxed out, and boy, oh boy, it keeps going up. But here's what I learnt this week. Not only do I love them, I like them. I like being in their company. Now, that sounds like a really obvious, dumb thing to say, but partly because, I don't see them all the time, because there's a divorce going on, so I don't see them all the time. But to spend 5 days, 4 nights, 5 days in their company with very little else. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air?
Oh, blimey. Hello, Iain. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, you phoned in. You must have expected something. Who is this, by the way?
It's Steve, by the way.
Hello, Steve, by the way. What can we do for you, by the way?
Rude audiences.
Oh, yeah. Oh, here we go. A topic. Yes.
Yeah, right. Very quickly, it was not Battersea Arts Centre. It was a pub in Battersea that has a theatre on top.
Yeah.
And it was well over 20 years ago. Some of the cast members of The Bill were putting on a play.
Oh, okay. Was it a play version of The Bill?
No, it wasn't. It was an American play. I cannot remember. I've just done a Google. I can't remember it.
Okay.
But what happened was 2 aisles down from us were a very famous TV couple.
Uh-oh.
I won't say who they are. It's nothing against them because they were
Ruth and Eamon.
Richard and Judy.
You're sort of close. Okay, it was John Stapleton and his wife.
Lynn Foldsworth.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And they were 2 down.
John Stapleton, one of the driest gentlemen. I'm sure there were when he stood up to leave, there was a pile of ashes in his chair. But go on, yes.
Well, what happened was in front of us, because they were 2 down. In front of us, there was this other couple, and they kept on nodding and prodding each other, and very loudly, one of them went, "That's Kilroy."
Ooh!
They loved it.
And they were doing that throughout the first half. So obviously, after the interval, we came back and they'd gone. I don't know if they'd been moved seats or something.
No.
But they were not there any longer in the second half. And I felt so sorry for them. But honestly, it's Kilroy, constantly through the first half.
Of course it's not Kilroy, it's the time, the place, and Watchdog. That's who they were.
That's it. And
Very
it was
rude referring to her as Watchdog.
horrible.
Okay, well, we can do this. Celebrities who have been rude in the audience. Years and years ago, I would have been 19, so that's 26, 27 years ago. I went and saw Glenn Campbell on my own at the Royal Festival Hall. Was it that time? I think it was. I was at the Royal Festival Hall. And there was a little bit in front of me and to the left, there was a kerfuffle. Right, there was a kerfuffle. And there was sort of some noise during the concert, then it stopped, then there was a bit noise again. Then at the end of the concert, a woman stood up and was just laying into these two people going, "You were so rude," talking all the way through it. And the guy turned around, I think he may have told her to F off, and his wife was a little bit gobby as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Carol McGiffin and her then husband, Mr. Chris Evans, being rude because they had been talking through the concert and someone had called them out for it. Carol McGiffin and Chris Evans caught up in a Barney at the end of a Glenn Campbell concert. Outrageous!
The sort of end of this night, because afterwards it was a pub, so we went downstairs and we had a drink and everything. And
was Kilroy in the pub as well?
No, they'd gone.
Yeah.
But we sort of just chatted, and all of a sudden I felt this hand on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I heard this, "Can I borrow your lighter?" And I turned round, and it was Polly Page. The actress who plays Polly Page in The Bill.
Oh, right, OK, fine. I would have ended the story at the first hurdle, but thank you very much indeed. 0344 499 1000. Why are we buzzing?
It's this microphone again, I bet you.
Hang on a minute. Amy, could you turn Kath's mic off? No, turn it on. Turn my computer off. It's my computer. All right, it's this lead. Turn it on again, please. It's this lead. Ah, Jesus!
What are you doing?
I tried to lick the lead.
Don't do that.
What the hell? Fixed it. Fixed it. Simple as that. Let's hear an advert for one of our colleagues. I've got my fingers crossed it's not Matthew Wright.
The wild man of late night radio.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
You can give us a call about anything. After 11, we're going to do something a little bit different. I have had the contract renewed for... Well, I had a weird contract, right? The contract was renewed when I was in the jungle. So December 2017. One of the first phone calls I got... Well, the first phone call was to kids. Second phone call was to you, Boyley. Third phone call was to my agent. Something like that. It was some order like that. And he said, we've got a 2-year contract at Talk Radio, because I'd done the jungle. He said, but there is a week, the last week of March, where they can terminate the contract without any penalty. Right, so that was the last week of March. They didn't terminate the contract, so I got another year. So the Late Night Alternative is here for another year. And me and Catherine, when we were driving to and from Brighton, the show in Brighton on Saturday, thank you to everyone who came. We got the shows are selling out. Something's happened. Glasgow sold out. The first Manchester show has sold out. London in June has almost sold out. Belfast is doing very well. IainLee.com/event. IainLee.com/event. But so me and Catherine had a chat, right, about the show. And the show, I'm so proud of the show, and listening to the show last week, it's the first time I've listened as a listener as it's gone out live. There's a big difference from listening to the podcast or listening to the best of.
But even the sound quality is different. Because
it sounds like a proper radio show.
Yeah, you use these microphones and sometimes you're talking to the listener or talking to a caller and everyone's talking at the same time and you think, can they actually hear what I just said? Yes.
These headphones
crystal clear.
These headphones make it sound crap. I was listening on my phone. It sounded like a proper radio show.
Oh, crazy.
But I listened and there were a few things I thought, not in anything to do with Catherine's performance, au contraire. But there were a few things I thought, okay, well, we've been doing that for a while, and I think I'd like to maybe just change that and shift that around there and do that. So me and Kath have had I'm here for another year. Hopefully I'm here for another 20 years. Hopefully we're both here for another 20 years. I would happily, this is my favourite job I've ever had. I would happily, grow old and die here. This is a bit, but, we have decided to treat the next 12 months as though it were the last 12 months of the gig, as though we knew we had 12 months left here, and so we are going to pull out every single flipping stop that we can. We're going to raise our game. The last 3 months have been weird with me talking about sex stuff and the car crash and the divorce. I would say since the end of December up until last week, it's been weird and it's been dark for me on a personal level, and I think that can't help but come across in the show. And also when you've been doing a gig for 3 years, you kind of get a little bit comfortable. You get a little bit, you stop, putting on your fancy clothes and your fancy makeup and stop brushing your hair, and you get a little bit comfortable with it. And maybe I have not been doing my best. So we are going to, we have decided we're going to treat the next 12 months as though they are the last of the Late Night Alternative. Fingers crossed they won't be. We are going to pull out all of the stops. We're going to shake a few things around. We're going to do a few new things. We're going to get some bits of it going to be experimental. There's going to be bits of it, guys. I hate to tell you this. There's going to be bits of it that you won't actually like. Because you'll go, well, that didn't work. I'm prepared to fail in a hugely public, spectacular way. We haven't failed enough recently, Catherine. We've had a few failures. We haven't failed enough. So I really want to, I want to try stuff. I want to do stuff. I want to try some new things. And if they fail, brilliant. I don't want them to fail, but if they fail, brilliant. We embrace that and we learn. And one of the things that we're going to do is after 11 we're going to play a thing that me and Catherine recorded a couple of years ago, and we tried to sell it to Radio 4 and to Audible, and Audible were really interested for a year, and then they went, actually we don't think we want it, and it was going to be the first of a series, and we never made the series because we were having our chains jerked for so long. And some of you will have heard it before because we put it out as a rabbit hole podcast, but a lot of you won't. So after 11 we're going to play a documentary. It's only about half an hour long, I think, that me and Catherine made, where I go and hang out with Gary Glitter fans. Okay, I go and hang out with Gary Glitter fans who are still really, really into Gary Glitter, despite the fact that Gary Glitter, Paul Gadd, is a child rapist and is still in prison right now for raping children. And I think it's really timely with the whole R. Kelly thing that we've been talking about, with the Michael Jackson thing that we've been talking about. And we'll have, if you want to join in, you'd be welcome to have a little conversation about, can you separate art from the artist? Should we, completely scrub these musicians out of musical history, these artists? It's not just music. Should we? Anyway, so we're going to do that. But then I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be nice if we went and did a few more things? And I've got a couple of ideas of things where I'd like to go and spend a day or a night or a weekend, with groups of people and record it and then bring it back. And I don't have the technical skills, so Catherine, I would love it if you'd edit it for me into a nice little 30-minute, 40-minute, hour-long, whatever it warrants, little package, little documentary. And then I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be great if me and Kath did some together? If I did some on my own, and I enjoyed listening to you so much last week, so much, it was a thrill. It really was. It was funny and it was great. So I said, well, Kath, it'd be great if you went out and did some on your own. And then we came up with a kind of couple of ideas in the car down to Brighton. And one of them is, and you can tell me if you've made any progress on this, is I want to hear you on a porno set.
Yeah.
While they're making a porno.
It's going to happen.
Is it happening? Oh, yes! I didn't know that. Oh, that is brilliant, is it?
Yeah, we're talking about schedules.
Yes!
So,
what schedules?
No, schedules.
Okay.
In this country.
Okay. Well, I embrace America.
Okay.
Because I've heard me. I've not been to a porno site, and as a sex addict, I think it would probably be slightly triggering. But I've heard a version of me doing those things, and I've heard John Ronson on a porn shoot. I've heard Louis Theroux. I haven't heard a woman on a porn shoot. Someone pointed out on Twitch that apparently Ruby Wax has done one.
Yeah, but we're quite different characters.
Very different, and I think Theroux and Ronson, I think I share similarities. So it's happening, is it? Yeah. Oh, mate!
Once the kids go back to school, obvs.
Oh, yeah,
I can't really take them.
Bring a child to work day. That's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be brilliant.
So we're going to do things like that. So if you have any ideas of, don't tweet and at, phone in. Let's make this a phone-in show, please, guys.
What we don't want is for you to at people who you're suggesting, because then it gets a bit awkward if we don't take you up
And also, don't even tweet. Don't even tweet it. We're trying to knock Twitter on the head. It's a phone-in show. I don't want to go all... Who's that old racist on BBC Local Radio?
Oh, what's his name? Not on there anymore, is he?
No, he got the boot at last. What's his name? Not Desmond Decker. I've been here 52 years. When I started, she told me we'd have Richard...
We had mugs made up, didn't we? And a poster.
Richard...
What would... thingy do?
What was his name? The old guy. Now, when I started here,
hang on,
52
I know how to look it up, right.
years ago.
Hang on.
What was his name?
His name was Richard Spenlove.
Richard Spenlove, right? But here's the thing, right? We do this from time to time, and we go off Twitter, and life is better, and shows are better, and we go off Twitter. Twitter's actually is quite a useful tool, even though it's rubbish. So don't tweet in stuff for the show. Phone up the show, 0344 499 1000. You can text as well if you want, 87222. Start with the word talk, I guess. Is that what they do? I never really do that.
Yeah.
25 pence plus your standard network rate. But phone in, guys, 0344 499 1000. So if you've got any suggestions of groups of people you would like us to spend the day with, or activity. You know the kind of thing that we're going for. I'm trying to persuade... They don't have to be sexual, by the way, obviously. But I am trying to persuade Catherine to go to a swingers party.
Oh.
Well, that's a better reaction than it got the other day when it was a definite no-no. Now it's got a sigh. Okay, now it's got a... Okay, we're making progress there. You can hear. We're making actual, real progress there.
I'm just imagining the smell. God, bad enough working with you.
I don't smell of semen and fanny.
No, but what you smell of is bad enough.
One in the pink. 0344 499 1000. The late night alternative, dear listener, with myself, Iain Lee, and Catherine Boyle. Weeknights from 10 on Talk Radio.
The late night alternative with Iain Lee.
Unfiltered night talk with the original king of unconventional conversation on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
Some people, they love one another, they learn to... Who is that? Who's some people? Cliff Richards.
Yeah, do you remember he fell over singing that?
In the smoke?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Was it on the Roxy?
No, it wasn't the Roxy. Wasn't it Gloria Hunniford?
No, it wasn't. It was...
Yes, it was.
The Box.
The Boxy.
Was it the Roxy? It was the Roxy. Was there a thing called the Roxy?
There was a thing called the Roxy. Cliff Richard would not have been on the Roxy. That was that's for young people. Look at you. Look at you. Hands away from the keyboard. Look at you, young lady. This is the problem with Britain at the moment.
I'm looking for facts.
We've had a conversation for 30 seconds and straight away you've gone to a computer to try and... Why don't we just have it out, like adults?
Because you don't know, and I'm not sure, so I wanted to check.
Here's the question I need to ask the listeners. Right. Would a lion eat a cat? Would a lion eat a pussycat if it saw it? Because they are cousins, right? Now, for example, humans would not eat other humans, regardless of... hang on a second, please let me get the idea out before you try and tear it apart.
I'm not, but I've had an idea myself.
For example, humans recognise other humans from whatever part of the world they're from, whatever colour, whatever creed, whatever gender, whatever. We recognise humans as humans. Cousins. I recognise people from Africa as my cousins. My ancestors. We all came from Africa. And so, I'm sorry, white guys. We all came from Africa. If you trace it back far enough. But would a lion recognise, for example, the cat that's getting on my nerves the most at the moment, Lucky, because I think she's living with another family in the caravan park behind our house. I think that's what she's doing. One of my kittens is staying out a lot of the time and not eating her food when I put it down for her and smelling of fags. So she's either smoking, or she's living with a smoker.
No, the kids vape these days.
What the hell is going on? So, but if I had a lion kept in the garden and Lucky went out, would the lion just look at it and go, oh, that's my cousin, I'm hungry, but it's a cousin. I don't know when time dinner is. Or would it go, wow, yeah, and have it? What would it do? What would it do? This is the question. We need a veterinarian. We need an animal expert. We need, one of those boring people that's really into nature to call in and tell us, would a lion eat a cat?
My feeling on the matter?
Yep.
It would get it munched.
I don't think it would. I think there is something... 0344 499 1000, by the way. I think there is something genetic within the genes. Oh, God. I think there's something genetic within the genes of the animals that they would recognise a kinship, a certain kinship.
One word for you, mate.
Yes, sir.
Cannibal.
What about it?
Well, they ate people.
Yeah, they ate people, but they made a conscious decision. It wasn't like, oh, we are...
Don't do the voice.
Okay, thank you for that warning. I appreciate that. Oh, here comes a white person. I don't know what colour cannibals are. I'm in a real.
No, you're probably right.
I'm in a real racial minefield here, and I wish I could just back out of it.
They used to call the white man the long pig, didn't they?
Okay, fine. Okay, well, in that case, I'm not being racist. Black people eat white people.
Black people or brown people?
Okay. Not all of them, obvs.
No, but these Polynesian tribes, they were always munching
these
like
Polynesian
explorers.
tribes coming over here eating our clerics.
I think the explorers were asking for it though.
I don't think they were.
Yeah.
But even the Polynesian tribe would have recognised the what's the word I'm looking for? Baptist missionary. Even the Polynesian tribes would have recognised the missionary as one of their own, as a human being. Although saying that, when the Dutch and the Spanish went to America, they didn't recognise the Native American as human. They thought they were animals.
Yeah.
When we went to Australia, we didn't recognise the Aboriginal as human beings. We looked at them as animals. So maybe a lion would eat a pussycat. I think we've solved that one.
Cross it off then, please.
That is crossed off the... Hey, by the way, happy birthday. You know whose birthday it is today? Let's get the oh, hang on a second. Let's get the royal seal of approval.
Hip, hip, hip.
There we go. And I'm going to get you a recording from his actual 65th birthday party. This is a recording from his 65th birthday party. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's can you guess whose birthday it is? It's earlier today. Here we go. Not quite. Hoo-yah! There we go. That's it. Who's 65 years old today? Hoo-yah!
Is it Jackie Chan?
Hoo-yah!
Is it?
Hoo-yah!
Oh yeah.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. That's the worst. That's the worst. I'm sorry, I'm getting audio hijacked so I can nick it. Hang on a minute. That's the worst effect I've ever heard. Hoo-yah! Yes, Jackie Chan. It just really made me laugh. That's the worst sound effect. Let's hear the rest of these sound effects. I've typed in Kung Fu sound effects.
Right.
Oh. No.
No. Someone's head being rammed into a gong.
Hang on, there's another minute. That's fist hand stop. There we go. Kung Fu clothes, hits and clothing sounds. These really are riveting. It's almost like being in ancient China. There we go. That's that. You should try and make female grunts. Sounds like she's trying to squeeze one out. Oh, there it goes. It's out. Sometimes, it's... and that was it. Wow. Incredible scenes. Absolutely incredible scenes. Incredible.
They didn't get the chucks out, though, did they?
They did not get the chucks out. Get your chucks out.
That's what I want to hear. I want to hear a bit...
I'll bring my chucks in one day.
No, I don't want to hear yours.
Yeah.
No, because I'm liable to get them round the ear hole.
I recorded that. This is. I'm good at this now at computers. So I'm going to record. I've recorded that. That was today. That is going. Where's me hotkeys? No one. Here's the thing. No one even. Oh balls! Look at it. Put that there. Put that on there. Bear with me, guys. Actually, we can get rid of that because she doesn't call anymore. Well, she called you when I was off. That shouldn't have been allowed.
Well,
she's banned.
Deal with it, mate.
I dealt with it by lodging a formal complaint. Edit. Here we go. So ask me.
That's the noise that Iain makes if I ever have the misfortune to be wandering around his house when he's hidden himself.
Yeah, it's my house. Do what I want.
Yeah, no, but yours... I get K-toed.
Let's go to Rhythmic Paul. Good evening, Rhythmic Paul. Hello.
Good evening, Madame, Monsieur. Good evening.
What can we do for you? Oh, what can we do for you? Hang on a minute. Oh, hang on. Stop. No, stop. Stop. Right, hang on. All right, listen. Will you, Kung Fu master, just bugger off. Take your Kung Fu away with you. We're not interested. Oh, hang on. I've broken the Kung Fu man. Hang on.
Oh, God.
That's him going down the street. Oh, get out of here! Go on!
Getcha!
Clear off! You bloody mystic Shaolin monk, get out of here! Hang on, there's another one! Oi, you! Get stuff! Go on! Throw that away, you bloody open-handed ancient martial arts. Get out of here. Sorry about that, Paul. I do apologise, Paul. What can we do for you this evening?
Well, I called in to comment on I can't even remember because you always left foot me when I come on the air.
No, that's unfair, mate. You just haven't got the skills. Hang on a minute. Oh, no, hang on. Oh. There's some kids.
Oh, they're very nimble.
It's the bloody Spy Kids. Get out of here. Get back to Tony Flags. Go on, get out of here. And your brother. Okay, that was fun for about 12 seconds, 5 minutes ago. Yes, Paul, what can we do for you? Please get to the point, Paul. Please, I'm begging you, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Firstly, what you were saying about your show in the past 3 years and all of that, yeah. I beg to differ. You have not been failing.
I don't think I used the word...
Where does failing come from? Why is it
That's quite harsh. I didn't use the word failing.
Why is it failing?
I don't know. He thinks we're failing. This guy thinks we're... I don't even want to talk to him now. What a rude man.
What do you mean by that?
What's this failing stuff? What are you talking about?
Well, forgive me if I misheard.
Off women's head!
Oh, I can't stop it. I can't stop the echo. If you gave an infinite number of Alan Caddicks an infinite number of typewriters, that would be a waste of typewriters, is all I can say.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you've not been failing. You've absolutely not been failing.
Who's been said failing? No, who's been said failing?
No,
have you been said failing?
No, if he says it again, I'm going to karate chop him in
I'm
the
going to
windpipe.
travel up to Glasgow, where we're doing a show soon, guys, which he's not coming to, despite...
I'm coming.
Have you got a ticket?
I bought tickets. I bought two tickets.
I thought you were doing a pop classical concert.
I thought you were playing your drums and that.
I am, but I'm coming afterwards.
Oh.
Okay, well, we might not... I'm taking up the new policy of we don't allow any latecomers into the auditorium after the way we were treated in Brighton by some drunks.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
Okay. But anyway, back to the failing.
I'll be wearing shiny shoes as well.
Oh,
anyway.
Shiny shoes, you say. In that case, you win.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm very excited for what is to come. Because, you guys on a bad day is still full glory.
What do you hate me?
I forgot about that.
Should get rid of that one.
And on the topic of artists and separating them from their art,
yes.
May I give a classical music perspective, please?
Oh, please do.
I bet there's some right old perverts there.
Do, because this is what I want to do. Because part of the reason I think we were failing, didn't use that word, is that we were too lowbrow. I want to go highbrow now. So let's get Paul on to talk about, the Ponzi violins and stuff. Go on, yeah.
Well, Richard Wagner, back in the day...
didn't he murder his wife? Didn't he push her off a boat? I'm thinking of Robert Wagner.
Possible.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm thinking of Robert Wagner, Heart to Heart. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
carry on, Paul.
Yeah. Famously anti-Semitic, committed pen to paper and wrote some fairly nasty things. His music was adopted by Hitler as kind of, the underpinning propaganda music for his whole effort. And yet, I've had the privilege, fairly rare privilege, of being able to, play the Ring 6 times.
Wow.
4 operas.
Your missus must really love you.
Stop it!
What was it, birthdays and stuff?
No, all the time. But what is it? 4 operas.
Child.
It's close to 16 hours worth of music.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big play, so they say.
Horny. Stop it! Dirty pervert. Don't bring me into this.
Right, okay. It's not live news, is it, Amy? Because I think we might be very, very late for the news. While while the anti-Semite Paul continues to try and justify his horrendous, horrible, obnoxious, racist views. Carry on, Paul.
Yes. The music is spectacular. The whole entity that makes up, the Ring of the Nibelung is extraordinary because he created a theatre to maximise the effect of the music, which still exists in Bayreuth, and the waiting list is I think a decade long or something.
Yeah.
The whole thing is extraordinary, and for me, irrespective of the fact that he had some dubious views, people should still have the opportunity to experience that amazing creation.
Paul, listen, it's very interesting. We will talk about this a bit more. I am very late for the news. Always love to talk to you, my friend. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk Radio.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
I can't hold you now.
So next week we've got Noel. I can't remember his last name. Sullivan.
Yes.
Noel Sullivan. In case my mind went blank, and then it popped in. Noel Sullivan, formerly of Hearsay, who for 20 minutes were the biggest pop band in this country. You know, like proper pop bands, they burnt brightly and then they kind of went. And I'm a big. Was it Pop Stars or Pop Idols? Pop Stars, I think, the series they were on, and that was the first series. And Pick Me, Nigel, was the tagline. Pick Me, Nigel.
Yeah, what were the guys called?
It was Nigel Lithgow. Oh, in the band?
No, I'm thinking of a different show.
No.
There was a girl band and a boy band, wasn't there?
That was Pop Stars The Rivals.
Right.
And they became Girls Aloud.
And One True Voice.
One True Voice. That was it. But Hearsay were the first.
Yeah.
They were the first one. And it was a huge series. I bet the figures. I bet it was getting between 10 and 15 million.
Yeah.
I bet.
And it was.
I bet
it was the thing that sowed the seed in people. Bing! I can be famous.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. It was kind of. It was the first time we'd seen a band constructed in front of us. But these pop bands have always been constructed. You go back to the Monkees, and there would have been others before. In fact, there were others before. Where there were examples in the 50s and 60s of, you know, studio musicians having a hit and like a manager going, we need to make a band out of this, and they just put different people together.
Yeah, but in this case, it felt like they were going to places that normally didn't get that kind of attention.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It was a huge series. And I am always fascinated by pop bands. And I like... We started off with S Club 7 today, because I've found my iPod, loaded it up with stuff for the first time in ages. And on shuffle, that song came on, and I thought, flipping, that's a great song. I played it on a loop 6 times in the car. I like white pop. You know, that's kind of my thing, is white pop. That's the way it goes. And I'm always fascinated with pop stars just on the turn. So they're at the peak. I'm not really interested in them, the journey up. I'm not interested in the peak. Just when they're on the turn, when they start to go down the other side of the hill. That, for me, is when it gets really, really interesting. And Hearsay are also an oddity in as much as... well, maybe they will. I mean, they could do. It's unlikely. First of all, they didn't have enough hits. They didn't have as many hits as S Club. They kind of had 2 hits, I think. But also, it's unlikely they're going to do the reunion.
No, because the women don't need it.
No, exactly. They're unlikely. But I'm kind of thinking, actually, they all sort of work for ITV. So I could possibly see at some point in 10 years' time
an audience with.
Not an audience with, but I can see some one-off thing for ITV. I can see some one-off thing. If ITV were canny, they'd have had a clause in the contract in 30 years' time. We own you for a night. But so, and someone tweeted me, I think, or I don't quite know how I came across it, but Noel had written a thing about a couple of weeks ago, last week, about mental health and his own, I hate the phrase battle. It's not a battle, it's life. But he'd written about living with depression and anxiety and how he'd had like a really dark period recently, but he was coming out of the other dark periods. Really nice, it wasn't long, a couple of pages, and he tweeted it, and I don't know how I came across it. And I thought, he writes brilliantly about it, and I bet he's got a story. Yeah. I bet he's got a story. So I tweeted him, said, you don't fancy coming on the show, do you? It'll be a laugh. And he said, oh, yeah, I'd love to. So we've been emailing each other. He's in Thailand at the moment on holiday. And I said, sorry, stop emailing me. Enjoy your holiday. We'll see you next week. So he's coming in next Tuesday, hopefully. I've invited him in for the first hour because I just think it'll be fascinating. And also, I mean, you're never quite sure how much you're going to get from them. But also it must be odd because Kim Marsh and Myleene Klass are 2 huge stars. Mm-hmm. Huge stars. Suzanne Shaw was big for a while. She did Dancing on Ice.
She comes and goes. I think she's got a theatre career.
Right, okay. Can't remember the other lad's name. And that says it all. That says it all. Danny. Last name? Exactly.
I didn't know their last names at the time.
Yeah, and that kind of says it all. That Danny and Noel, kind of, they didn't... And as someone... You know, from personal experience, having done a TV show with 2 people who then went off to become the biggest stars in the world, literally, for a while, still are to a certain extent, not quite as much, but became 2 of the biggest movie stars in the world. I know what it's like, that watching people that you were kind of on a par with just take off and you sort of disappear for a bit. And I know what that feels like. And I just wonder, he may not want to talk about that, and that's cool, but I'm going to ask him if the vibe is right. how he does that. Anyway, I think it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
So he's coming in next week, and I'm really, really thrilled he's coming in. I think it's going to be really interesting chat. Go on.
Here's something I've noticed.
Yep.
You know, Britney Spears has checked herself into a mental health facility.
Yes, no one's laughing this time.
No, isn't that interesting,
Yes.
right? First time around,
I did the
Britney's
jokes.
meltdown.
Yeah, we all did the jokes.
Well,
the shaving of the
because
head. And...
it was kind of shocking. There were loads of pictures. There were photographers around her as she got wheeled onto an ambulance on a gurney. And I remember there were helicopters. Remember that footage? Do you?
I don't remember that footage.
Yeah, I do, because they were saying that there was a situation at her house, and I
don't remember that. I remember the shaved head.
They were waiting for pictures.
I remember the shaved head. I remember the footage of her and her partner, Kevin Federline. How did I remember that name?
Yeah.
Tripping on acid and talking about time travel. And, I made jokes about it. It may have been when the 11 o'clock show was on. We would definitely have joked
Everyone
about it.
did. I'm pretty sure there's a mug out there you can buy that said, if Britney can get through 2000 or whatever it was, she can get through today. She's sorted herself out. She, a career, longevity has been outstanding compared to what you thought it might be. She was, supposed to be a little bubblegum pop princess, and they're 10 a penny now, aren't they? People really have a lot of affection for Britney, and I just noticed the attitude towards what's happened this time around really changed.
Yes, it has. It has in a really positive and interesting way. So we've got Noel coming in next week. I'm looking forward to that. And tomorrow we've got Will Storr coming in. Now, Will has got a new book called The Science of Storytelling, which I've not read. And I'm going to try and read as much of it as I can tomorrow, but I ain't going to be able to read it all because I was away and he sent it to me. He sent me an email when I was away saying, I don't suppose you want a copy of my new book. I said, first of all, I think you're fab. So, of course, I want a copy of your new book. I don't suppose you fancy coming on the show. So he's going to come on tomorrow. I will read as much of his book as I can. But he's been on before, and he's brilliant. He's fascinating. And there was a really interesting thing. I can't remember his partner. I think they might be married.
Yeah, they are married.
She is the editor of Cosmopolitan.
And her name is Farah.
And there was a really interesting... There was an article about her, an interview about her, and there was a picture. And you see the caption of the picture: Cosmo editor Farah Storr, pictured with her pictured with her partner Will, a writer. And I thought that was brilliant. It may have been even slightly vaguer than that, because a week before I'd seen a woman rightfully complaining that there was an article about her, I think, but it was a picture of her husband, the famous, and it was, acting, famous actor John Smith pictured with his wife Judy, whatever.
Yeah.
And she had been, as it often is with women, had been relegated to the pictured with, despite the fact that she was incredibly successful on her own and was having her own career, and the article may have even been about her. It was this is the man's name and this is his job, pictured with his partner. And I thought I need to get the wording exactly right on this Farah Storr, Will Storr picture, because it was a really, not in a mean way, a really clever twist.
Yeah, beautifully
on
done.
it. It was really nice, and I saw that and went, oh, well, good, as it should be.
You still get that a lot, when
as
someone, generally, it's kind of a murder victim, and they'll talk about the doctor's wife.
Well, there was one today, a young man, maths genius graduate, pictured with his sweetheart that he murdered.
Yeah.
Well, she was also a maths genius graduate, and by calling him a maths genius graduate and her a sweetheart, you're belittling her.
You're romanticising it.
Kind of implying it was her fault to a certain extent. She must have scorned him. And no, he's a scumbag murderer. Scumbag murderer, genius maths graduate who was murdered by a scumbag. There are better ways of phrasing it than the way that we are used to. Anyway, Will is great. Will is great, and I will read as much of that book as I can tomorrow. But even if I cannot read it all, which I'm sure I won't be able to, as I'm a slow reader, he is always good guest. He's coming in for the first hour tomorrow, and I'm thrilled. He's one of the good guys, and I'm looking forward to that. Right, we'll have a break. Then when we come back, we'll set up the Gary Glitter thing that we're going to play out, and we'll do that. This is Talk Radio.
Uncut after-hours conversation for the up all-night generation.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee
on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
So here's the thing, right? When I left the BBC, when I got the book from the BBC, and it was miserable, and it was Christmas. It was coming up to Christmas, and I just found myself just spending a lot of time online on YouTube, and I fell down a Gary Glitter Rabbit holes. Big fan of Gary Glitter when I was 14, 15, 16. Big fan. Used to go and see him in concert and stuff, and slightly ironically, slightly tongue-in-cheek, but also I enjoyed it. And, of course, he, in the late 90s, was convicted of child pornography, and then in the early 2000s, anyway, he was convicted of child rape, and he has raped several children. Paul Gadd, Gary Glitter. And I was watching a lot of these Gary Glitter videos this Christmas 3 or 4 years ago. I'm really enjoying them. There's a great Arena documentary where he joins up with Jerry Cottle's Circus in 1982. It's an incredible documentary. And I found it confusing because I'd be singing I Love You, Love Me, Love, and the kids would come in and go, what's that song? And I'd go, oh, no, it's nothing. Or I'd be watching a video of Gary Glitter on Top of the Pops, or a live concert on YouTube, and the kids would come in, and I'd close it down like I was watching a Bluey or something, like I was watching porn. You know, I didn't want to be... I felt very weird and uncomfortable being... I didn't know how to feel.
As if you were doing something you shouldn't be.
Yes. But yeah, I enjoyed the music. And I've got some really good memories of going to some Gary Glitter concerts with my friends. Really good memories. And I was trying to work out how my relationship... Could I have a relationship with Gary Glitter music... Still, was it possible, despite the fact that he had raped children, and I keep saying that because, child porn and child abuse doesn't go far enough. He raped children, I think, as young as 12, possibly 10 as well. It's horrendous crimes he's committed. And it's kind of been on my mind again recently because of the whole R. Kelly thing. The women generally the women were older, but they were still underage in America, and I think they were as young as 16, 15? 14. Thank you very much indeed. 14. Thank you. Okay. I was thinking 16, 17. Not that makes a significant difference. But
the girls in the video, that's the allegation is they're 14.
Absolutely right. And then, of course, and we talked about the R. Kelly documentary. And then, of course, there was the Michael Jackson thing maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, Leaving Neverland documentary, where the accusations of Michael Jackson being a child rapist, which have kind of been bubbling around since the mid-90s, were brought to the surface again in a really confrontational, powerful way in this documentary. These two men talked about their experiences being groomed and raped by Michael Jackson, but also the conflicting feelings of love and resentment and friendship and betrayal, all of these things, right? And it's got me thinking again about the Gary Glitter programme that Catherine and I made, which you're going to hear in a second, and about artists, and I don't just mean pop stars, but there are so many artists throughout history who have done heinous things.
Roman Polanski, for example.
Roman Polanski drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl anally. By the way, I should have said that before that. This could be triggering. The next 30, 40 minutes could be triggering for you. Should have said that just then. I apologise. Do apologise for that. There's going to be some frank language. I got a whole list of them. Right, I've got a whole list of them, from the obvious ones like Elvis, a paedophile, in as much as he met Priscilla and was courting Priscilla Presley. Courting. I'm using the word courting. Look, isn't that funny? I've used the word courting, which implies a romantic, old-fashioned... He met Priscilla when she was 14, and it's pretty safe to assume they were having a sexual relationship. Again, look, I'm using language that puts it in his favour. Courting and relationship. He was raping Priscilla Presley at the age of 14, when she was 14. Jerry Lee Lewis... married and raped I'm using the word rape because a child cannot give consent. His 13-year-old cousin when he was in his 20s. I've got a whole list of not, and it's not just sexual stuff, right? Obviously there's Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, who drugged and kidnapped and raped a 14-year-old girl, Laurie Maddox, or Laurie Mattix as she's sometimes known, drugged and kidnapped her. Locked her in his hotel room so she couldn't get out. David Bowie had sex with raped the same young girl when she was 15. This is all documented. This is all out there. You've got other stuff, right? Sean Penn. And I'd forgotten about this. Sean Penn got drunk, tied up Madonna, held her prisoner and beat the crap out of her. Beat her up. John Lennon famously... Well, there's two for John Lennon. John Lennon was a wife beater. He beat up Cynthia. That's documented. Him and Stuart Sutcliffe mugged a sailor in Germany. They attacked a sailor in Germany, and there's one theory that's how this sailor turned and beat the crap out of them, and there's one theory that's how Stuart Sutcliffe kind of got his brain hemorrhage after that. Phil Spector, a spousal abuser, abused Ronnie Spector and murdered a woman, shot a woman close range in the face 10 years ago. Philip Larkin, right, a great poet, massive racist. His letters that were published 10 years ago, I stopped going to the cricket because, quotes, there are too many effing N's.
Wow.
N for the word we don't say for black people. There are too many effing N's. Horrible racist. Eric Clapton, this is famous, man. A concert in Birmingham in 1974, when he was drinking a lot. Again, I'm justifying it for him. Doesn't matter. What he said in 1974 was, Enoch Powell was right. Send them all back. Throw the W's out. Keep Britain white. Eric Clapton. Right? So there are loads and loads of examples of artists who have done obnoxious things. Now, do you class... Do you put in a league table? Is racism below murder and murder is below child rape? This is, in my head, how I play it out.
The thing is about racism, there is hope that you might change.
Yes. And it could be argued, and Clapton has since come out and has spoken about this and apologised, and he said it was a very low point in his life when he was drinking a lot, and he's come out and he's made amends.
Do we give him a pass for doing a stupid thing, saying a stupid thing, believing a stupid thing?
I think people can make amends for certain things. So, the question is, and if you want to call in about this, you can you separate the art from the artist, right? I still like listening to Gary Glitter music. Should it be played on the radio, right? A lot of people still like listening to Michael Jackson music. Should it be played on the radio? Should we, if we're going to boycott Gary Glitter music, then we have to boycott Jackson. Do we boycott Spector? Because Spector was only spousal abuse and murder. It wasn't the rape of children. Do you know what I mean? It's a complicated one. So, a couple of years ago, I went and hung out with a load of Gary Glitter fans to try and find out, A, what my relationship was and could be with Gary Glitter. Could I justifiably and ethically still enjoy the music, and also find out why they I think this was 2016 maybe, why they in 2016 were still flying the flag for Gary Glitter. So have a listen to this. How do you feel knowing that your attending the court case made victims of child sexual abuse uncomfortable?
I can say I did what I needed to do. And if the result of that is that they became uncomfortable, then of course that's a shame.
You know that's going to sound cold.
Yeah, I know that sounds cold, but again, I had to go and support Gary.
When I was a teenager, me and my friends really got into Gary Glitter. He was way past his prime, but his concerts were a good laugh. We went and saw him about 4 or 5 times. All good fun. Then, of course, Gary Glitter became famous not for his songs and outlandish outfits, but for his sexual crimes. In 1999, he went to prison for downloading thousands of images of child abuse. In 2006, he was found guilty of committing obscene acts with 2 girls aged 10 and 11 in Vietnam. And in 2015, he was convicted of attempted rape, 4 counts of indecent assault, and 1 of having sex with a girl under the age of 13. All hideous crimes and completely unforgivable. But there was something niggling away at me. Then, one bored weekend, I realised what it was. I still liked Gary Glitter's music. A quick look online told me I wasn't alone. There were hundreds of people out there in the dark corners of the web, all saying how much they loved the leader. How do they justify listening to his music despite the hideous crimes against children? And would I be able to find peace putting on a Gary Glitter's greatest hits, or would it just be too uncomfortable for me? I had to find out. Hello and welcome to the only Gary Glitter fan club website. No slander will be tolerated here. Well, this website is for exactly what it says on the tin, brackets the real fans. On this website, you will find photos and videos, and you can even leave a message for Gigi. And then it says in the middle, Gary Glitter Fan Club against child abuse. It's about the music. OK, and this is the forum. Gary's Music Rocks, simple as. Check out my YouTube channel if you like. Plenty of GG gems in there. Cheers, Paul. Oh, dear, oh, dear. This poor bloke. Well done for putting this site up. It's very difficult. I love Gary Glitter. I used to make a living doing Gary Glitter impersonations as Terry Tinsel. But obviously not very popular now. I met him several times. He always seemed a nice guy. It's harder to come out as a Glitter fan than being gay these days. Here's a good one from Helga in German. She tried to write this in English. Sorry for my English, but I want Gary's say-so much. He is a mad entertainer which has mega power. If he's health-wise still possible for the stage liked, he is to consider the pre- and disadvantages attack is the best defence. And even Jesus said, who without sin it is, throw the first stone. So basically, people still love Gary. Well, I'm going to leave a message. Iain Lee. And I'm slightly reluctant to do this. I'm going to put my email on here. Do you know what? I nearly put a kiss there. Probably the most inappropriate kiss I could ever submit online. All right, click the submit button. It looks like they might have closed the forum here to stop spamming. But there is YouTube channel. Oh, it's called Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Jukebox. Bloody hell. No better place to get glittered in. I bet this is a nightmare patrolling the message boards on here. OK, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that message to the gentleman that controls this. I'm going to subscribe, although I'm aware that by subscribing, that's going to make me look a little bit dodgy-bodsky. OK, well, I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago, and I have had... Well, let's look at Gary Glitter, Forever the Leader. No responses. Although there is a post after mine from Dan Percy saying, are you all a bunch of paedophiles yourselves? Is that why you still support him? If we go to the other page, Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Jukebox, there was a response there from Michael Parker. Michael says, count me in, Iain. Check out my glitter pictures. Now, there's a loaded sentence if ever there was. And I go on his Facebook page, and his picture is Gary Glitter in all his 70s glory on a motorcycle. Mobile uploads. Wow. OK. There's him dressed as, I guess, Gary Glitter. There's him with some Gary Glitter gold discs on his wall. I have to go and meet this guy. I have to go and meet this guy. Right, I'm in Peterborough, and I'm just trying to find Michael's house. I think I've gone past it. I think this is the right road. I'm very nervous. I wonder if he thinks I'm going to go in with an agenda. Maybe I'm supposed to have an agenda. I don't know. Let's have a little look. Michael! Oh, hello, mate. So... Aha! Cool, how you doing? Huh? Well, then you're a very old man.
I'm a very old man. 56.
Nice to meet you, mate. How you doing? Thank you so much for seeing me.
That's all right. Cup of tea, coffee?
Cup of tea, white, no sugar would be awesome, please. Wowzers. This is amazing. God, blimey, I'm seeing everything. This is amazing. Do you want to talk me through some of the bits and pieces that you've got?
They're all replicas, all silver and gold replicas of Gary's and Glitter Band's discs.
I tell you what's making me uncomfortable. What? Is this fella here?
Mannequin.
You've got a glitter mannequin. Now that is... all things to one side, that's weird, isn't it? A glitter mannequin?
Well, it's not really him, it's just what I did because of the costumes I've made. So I needed something to stand them on.
And the boots? I see you got some boots.
I had them made. They were shoes I had in the 70s, and I just made them higher.
When did you make them into platforms?
They were platforms originally, just only an inch platform.
Oh, is that all?
But I made them into that sort of height, 20 years ago now would have been.
Do you go out in them?
I still wear them when I go to see the Glitter Band.
Yeah.
And when I last went to see Gary, would have been then, in 97, with my best mate. He stopped being a Gary fan.
What was his reason?
He couldn't separate Gary Glitter from what had happened, because we all see Gary Glitter on stage, and with the accusations of the young girls said what they said. And when it came to court last year, I think I just put the nail in the coffin for him, really.
I tell you what, I'm going to be honest, it's weird coming in here, because Gary Glitter is a taboo. You know, he has been whitewashed from rock and roll history. And it is very, very strange to walk into a room and see so much Gary Glitter stuff.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. It's the music that I feel sorry for, that you can't hear it anymore. You ever mention his name, people would look at you and think, you know, but that's not the Gary I knew.
You say you were friends with Gary?
Yes, I met him several times. First time I met him would have been 77 at Bailey's in Leicester.
That was when he'd retired and he was sort of making a comeback, his first comeback, was it?
77, yeah, would have been that, yeah. Yeah, so it was a cabaret club, yeah.
Yeah. And you went back to the hotel to meet him?
Yeah, there's myself, two of my sisters and some friends, yeah, no problems at all. Down to earth, pleased to see us all. But he was never any sexual connotations at all. Came to see him in hospital in 1979. I broke my neck, motorcycle accident.
He came to see you?
Yes.
Blimey.
I was due to go and see him in Bedford on the 12th of December. I couldn't go, so my sister Caroline went to my place, and she got backstage.
You got some scrapbooks here, which I'm keen to have a look. Oh, there we go. Housewife Carolyn Lunny wants pop star Gary Glitter to visit her teenage brother Michael, who's seriously in hospital. She says Michael, 19, is Gary's #1 fan. Were you his #1 fan?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he came along?
Yes, he did, yeah. He actually came. He kept it out of the press. He kept it quiet. The press didn't know anything about it. And then he actually came to see me. And then after he came to see me, it was in the press. We went back to my sister's house, because I lived with her at the time.
I've got to ask a question that I'm hesitating asking.
Go on.
And if I ask anything you don't want to answer, tell me.
Go on.
How old was your sister?
Caroline. She was born in 19... Same age as Gary. She was born in 1944, 44, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was the same age.
And you understand why I'm asking that question, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good,
no,
yeah.
She had her daughters. Her daughter was 16 at the time when he came back to the house.
And did Gary Glitter hang out with her daughters?
No.
No. Okay.
Never.
Okay.
No.
What is interesting here, you changed your name to Gad.
Yes, 1979.
That's taking fanhood into another level, isn't it?
That was done as a bet to start with. They said, I bet you wouldn't do it, so...
Because all the best decisions are.
Yeah, so I did it. I didn't regret it at all.
And you changed your name back from Gad to your original name when the trouble kicked off?
Yeah, I actually changed it in 1999, so it was a couple of years after the trouble.
Because he was... If I got this timeline right, he was accused in 97 and convicted in 99 of the child pornography on the computer.
That's it, yeah.
Let's have a look at some more clippings that you've got. You've got a very healthy collection. I know. Look, I've got to go back because I noticed we've just flicked past the picture. Here we go. Gary gets rid of his glitter.
Yeah, that's when he told it all.
And there's Gary.
Yeah.
In a bath with
it's a hot tub.
A hot tub.
Yeah, but I don't know who the girls are.
Okay. An advert here for the review for the single "What Your Mama Don't See, Your Mama Don't Know."
Yeah. And of course, because of the name of the title, people read into it and that. And
you can understand why.
Yeah.
I've got to ask about the crimes that he's been found guilty of.
Yeah.
So, found with thousands of child pornography images on his computer in 97 and sentenced in 99. There was also that weird thing where he travelled around Cambodia and Vietnam and was convicted in 2006, I think, of an assault against children in Vietnam.
Yeah, and went to prison for that.
that. Came back, served the rest of his sentence here. And then, of course, in 2015, found guilty of attempted rape, I think, and sex with a girl under 13.
Yeah. Some of that I don't believe A lot of that. They said in court that it was unbiased, but how could it have been because of all the newspaper coverage that had been in the past? Apparently he had sex with a girl backstage in 1977 wearing one of his glitter suits and platform boots. He stopped wearing platform boots not long after 75 because they were no good for his feet and that. He never wore his glitter suits backstage after a gig ever. Not when I met him, he didn't, never. And when I saw him in 77, I was 17 at the time. I didn't see young girls in the audience at all, young as 10 anyway. But then your mother would have known not to let you be backstage on your own with a pop star, regardless of who they were.
But yet he was found guilty.
Yes, exactly, yeah. I think because the child pornography was done first, I think a few people came out of the woodwork. In the 70s, lots of young groupies at that time. They knew what they were doing. They knew it's a pop star, not just Gary Glitter, other people as well. You know, it's famous, blah, 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 you know. They do the best to get in bed with them. What ages they were, I don't know. I don't agree with it, but it happened in the 70s, didn't it?
Why do you think they're picking on Gary Glitter, then, in that case?
Because of the Jimmy Savile thing, I think.
Right. So you think that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the nation, the press, whatever, the public, are so annoyed that we let Jimmy Savile get away with it, and he died with all we want to pin it. We want to pin something on someone, and so
Gary Glitter's the next best thing. That's my.
Do you really believe that?
Yeah, I do. Proving it is another thing. The only person who really knows himself is Paul Gadd.
Isn't it interesting? That's the first time we've used the name Paul Gadd.
I separate Paul Gadd and Gary. He was charged as Paul Gadd, not as Gary Glitter.
Yeah.
That's how I separate the two.
Yeah. Supposing Paul Gadd did do those crimes.
Yeah.
Can you separate the two enough that you could still enjoy Gary Glitter, even if Paul Gadd had committed those horrible crimes?
Yeah, because it's two different people.
Well, it's the same person, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is the same person. Yes, but looks nothing like Gary Glitter to me.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Cheers, Ian.
Take care. See you later on. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Ian.
See you later on. Well, there we go. You know, what a nice bloke. What was I expecting? He's a bloke who likes music. Blinkered? Maybe. In denial? Possibly. But, just a nice bloke who likes music. Ugh. Michael made me feel very welcome. He also made a cracking cup of tea. Next up, I was off to meet VJ, who runs a Gary Glitter YouTube fan page. Yep. That looks like it. It's the man.
It's your man.
Hello, David.
You're right.
I'm Ian.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. You're right.
Oh, yeah. I'm Karen, anyway.
Hey, Karen. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Am I just going straight through?
Yeah.
Lovely. VJ, you run the Facebook page, you run the YouTube page. We were just talking about this. You must get a lot of abuse from people.
Yeah. But that's the price you pay for being a Glitter fan.
What kind of stuff do people say?
Well, pedo lover, that sort of thing, you know. What you're doing is supporting a pedo, which I do understand and comes with a gig, as I say.
I've seen some abuse. I don't know if it's necessarily directed at you, but they're accusing the people who are running the sites of being a pedo. Have they done that to you?
Yeah.
Because that must be really upsetting.
Yes. It does hurt, but I don't suppose that'll ever go away, which I understand that.
It's interesting, isn't it, that Glitter has been pretty much erased from musical history. You know, if you listen to a chart rundown from 73 on Radio 2, they'll skip him. He's not on top of the Pops 2 anymore. No. Yet they will play songs by Jonathan King.
Yeah.
Do you think it's fair that Glitter is excluded completely? And do you understand why they do it?
Yes, I understand why they do it, but I just... To me, it's music. It just comes out of a speaker. What harm is that doing? But other people think different. So, I mean, I don't choose to like Gary Glitter's music. The music chose me. I'm a great believer in that. Gary Glitter's music chose me, and that is the way it is. I can't help liking Gary Glitter songs, but I do. And I believe in power rock and roll. I believe in listening to what I wanted to listen to.
A little bit of my background. I say I was a Glitter fan.
Yeah.
Went and saw him loads of times, and it was that 97 when he got found he had thousands of images of child pornography on his computer. And he was convicted in 1999. And that was when I kind of had to say, I can't be a part of this anymore. And I was gutted. I was devastated. I was heartbroken. And I thought, I can't be involved. What was your reaction? What were your feelings when you heard about it?
I was more or less exactly the same as your feelings. When it happened, I got his autobiography, Leader, it's called.
Yeah.
That went straight in the bin. The records, all the vinyl went up into the attic. I didn't have the heart to throw them away. I'm glad I didn't now, to be honest with you. They went up in the attic and that was it. I've done myself a Gary Glitter, then forgot about it all. And then the computers come along, YouTube come along, and I jumped on YouTube, and one night I looked over my shoulder, type in Gary Glitter. So I typed in Gary Glitter, and that was it, all comes flooding back. And I thought to myself, this is wrong. I like this music. I'm going to listen to this music. So and it sort of went on from there.
Do you know when that was, roughly? What year that was?
No, I'm not. No. It's a good few years. Yeah. I left it a good few years.
Because other stuff has come out, and I have to say that, the other stuff that he's done, he was convicted in Cambodia in 2006, and the conviction last year of sex with a girl under 13, attempted rape, molestation. He's been found guilty of it.
Yeah.
Does that not make you question it at all?
Yes, but it's still it's an hard one.
It is a tough one.
Yes. But at the end of the day, the music will still be there. It'll never go away, and that's just the way I look at it. It may be wrong. It's the way I look at it, but it is the way I look at it, and it can't be just me.
Well, obviously it isn't, because how many people are in your Facebook group?
I've got 600 in the one I'm on at the minute, and I've got 1.8 million views on the YouTube channel. So it's a fair few. It's a fair few.
Is there a part of you that's doing it to wind people up?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm going to bite back sometime, because he does get to you at times after the minute of time of being called a pedo lover. That's worse than things than that as well. But I'll just try and ignore it and just get on with the music, get some rock and roll done.
What's interesting is, because I've met a couple of people, and I've spoken to a few more people online.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm expecting, but the people that I've spoken to and the people I've met are, in inverted commas, normal.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you understand why that's a little bit surprising?
Yes.
I'm not expecting you to be paedophiles at all. I know that that's a nonsense to brand the fans that, but I was expecting something a little bit weird. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. This is why I'm sort of glad I've done this interview with you, just to have people just let people know that we're just normal, everyday people that likes the music, and that is it. End of story.
It was interesting talking to VJ, and he made a good point, but I still couldn't imagine listening to Gary Glitter music guilt-free, especially not in front of other people. Well, then I found out that a couple of original members of the Glitter Band were going to be doing a gig at a really small venue in Birmingham. I got in touch with Claire and Lewis, who were going to the show, and met up with them in their B&B. I'm in the hotel room with Claire and Lewis. We're in Birmingham. Why are we in Birmingham? What's happening?
We're coming to see John Russell and Harvey Ellison, who are two of the founder members of the Glitter Band, and they're playing tonight at the Roadhouse. And
what are they going to be playing? Do they play... I mean, obviously they play Glitter Band stuff. Are they going to play Gary Glitter songs? What's the set?
Mixture of both, and also a few other songs that fit in with that glitter beat style of music.
When they're playing the Gary Glitter songs, is there anything in... is there ever any tension in the audience? Is there ever anyone going, oh, you shouldn't be playing that?
It's almost like a release, actually. Like, you can actually go out and enjoy listening to it, dancing to it, and other people are there with you doing exactly the same thing, and nobody looking at you, with daggers in their eyes, thinking bizarre thoughts about you.
It is... we talk about guilty secrets in music. I guess, leader of the gang, do you want to touch, I love, you love, these are kind of the dirtiest secrets in music, aren't they?
I don't really know what you mean by that.
Well, just that, you don't hear them on the radio, and when it's Pick of the Pops on Radio 2, if it's Gary's at number 7, it kind of gets that number 7 doesn't exist,
That's true. It's very, very sad, and it's just not right in my view.
Ever met him?
Yes, I've met him quite a few times.
Where and when, and what was he like?
In the 90s, met him a couple of times. Me and my friends, obviously, were a bit more mobile then. We found out where he was and we'd go to see him at various locations, and obviously he'd love to see his fans at any opportunity he gets. And then I was fortunate, well, I was in the right place at the wrong time in, I think it was 2012. I was down his street and he happened to be walking by, and I went up to him because I knew that he was quite deaf, but I didn't want to shock him, and I just put my hand on his shoulder, and he looked round and he said, "Claire," he said, "I knew it wouldn't be long before I saw you again."
What were you doing in his street? You stalking him?
Something like that.
Okay. Now, Lewis, it's got to be said, you're a young man.
So I'm 25, so born in 91.
Wow.
And I first heard about Gary in the newspapers. I think, obviously, when I was about 16, he was in the papers with a lot of negative articles over, and a lot of hatred in the press.
That would have been his convictions for downloading child pornography? Is that what that was?
That was post-2000.
Right.
So, of course, everything the media were covering in Vietnam, that was the stories that was in the paper at that time. So I remember asking people, who is he? And they said he was a famous singer. And then I had to then go onto YouTube to discover that past that no one spoke of.
How does it sit with you? And I'm curious because I don't know how it sits with me. How does it sit with you listening to Gary Glitter, knowing what he's in prison for?
I'll be honest, being a Glitter fan is not something I would share with people. People get very angry and they accuse you of perhaps supporting paedophilia when it's clear that, no person would ever support that. And I think just because someone listens to a piece of music, it doesn't mean they are supporting paedophilia. It means they are supporting a song that's 40 years old and a song that is just a song.
Claire, do you get, stick, abuse? What do you get when you tell people you're a Gary Glitter fan?
Well, I used to be a little bit more vocal about it now, but as Louis says, you just don't want people to be pointing their finger, giving you funny looks. I just keep it a bit more to myself now, and I find that really sad. I have to do that because it's nothing to what he was accused of doing is nothing to do with me liking his music.
How do you, speaking to some of the people for this, they seem that they say that they are able to separate Gary Glitter, the musician, from Paul Gadd, the paedophile. Is that, and I can't get my head around that. Is that how it works for you?
I find that really difficult too. I don't think I can either. The music's different. Gary Glitter's a caricature of something, but it is Paul Gadd playing that person.
And also, he would have used that status, that stature, that fame to appeal to young, to girls, to little girls.
I wouldn't say that at all, no.
Okay, really? Why not?
Well, I know he was found guilty and he admitted downloading the child porn, but as for the other charges, I just can't see that to be true.
Really?
And we were at the court and I didn't hear any evidence that would stand up. But the jury have read all about him, regardless what the judge decided. He thought that wasn't true, that they probably already made up their minds, and he was going to be found guilty before the trial started.
So you don't think that he did rape, sexual assault, sex with a girl under 13, which is what he was found guilty of?
I don't know, but I just didn't hear enough evidence for that to be for him to be found guilty.
Lewis, you went to the court case. That's a weird thing to do, isn't it?
Yes, it's a weird thing to do, but anyone I knew, I would go to support them. No matter what they were accused of doing, I would do it for anybody, because I think...
Even though they're accused of raping a child?
I just felt that was something I needed to do, and I obviously know people will criticise that and find it odd. But I think me as a person, I would want to help someone, but also I'd want someone to not feel alone, and I think that's why that I chose to go and support Gary.
It's very noble to support someone, you know, in their hour of need, but how do you think that made the victims feel?
I believe I sat behind one of the girls in the case, and they were not happy to hear our conversations in support of Gary, and appeared very angry.
You can understand why, can't you?
Of course, obviously we have to respect their feelings, but I think that it's their right to be angry, but it's also our right to go and support Gary. And I know that's a strong...
Well, no, and this is really an interesting thing, and I didn't expect the conversation to go down this route, because I didn't know that. How do you feel knowing that you're attending the court case made victims of child sexual abuse uncomfortable?
I don't have any feeling on that. I can say I did what I needed to do, and if the result of that is that they became uncomfortable, then of course that's a shame.
You know that's going to sound cold.
Yeah, I know that sounds cold, but again, I had to go and support Gary.
Hello, mate. Can I get a lemonade, please?
Yeah, do you want any ice?
Yeah, I'll have some ice, please. Thank you. Well, I'm in the bar and there's about a dozen people here.
Have you been served?
Oh, that young man's sorting me out already. Lewis, I'm going to have to make a move, mate. Really nice to meet you. Thanks a lot for your time. See you later on. Thank you, mate. Nice to see you. Yeah. Have a good night. Take care. Which door?
That one that says way out.
Yeah, the one that says way out. That would be the clue. Thank you. Oh, man alive. Well, you can hear it coming through the walls, can't you? That was weird. I mean, it's been a nice evening. I've been there for 3 hours. It's been a really nice evening. Enjoyed the band. Had a weird argument with Claire about the whole paedophile thing. Where previously she said she thought that Glitter was only guilty of downloading child pornography, only guilty. But then we had a really weird argument where she talked about the court case, and she ended up saying that she thought he probably had slept with a 12-year-old girl, but, and there were all kinds of buts and things, and I said, yeah, but you're saying he slept with a 12-year-old girl, right? That's wrong, isn't it? She went, yeah, but... And then she fired off a load of excuses. The two main ones seem to be that women mature faster than men, and what about other rock stars that had famously, you know, allegedly slept with girls when they were underage? She cited Bill Wyman. And how come he got off and Glitter didn't? It was unfair. And I said, well, do you want them both to be in prison or Glitter? It was a really weird argument, and it got quite tense. The show itself, I stuck around for a bit of it, and when they played a Gary Glitter song, I Didn't Know I Loved You Till I Saw You Rock and Roll, I started singing along, you know, and it felt kind of good to be singing along to it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the group thing, and I guess at that precise moment, I wasn't celebrating Gary Glitter. I was celebrating a bloody good song, my childhood, nostalgia. I don't know what I was celebrating, but it wasn't glitter. A weird evening full of emotions. It seems to be that a lot of the fans can separate glitter from GAD, the crimes from the music, although most of the people I spoke to seem to think that glitter is innocent, and that it's a stitch-up. It's a conspiracy by the media. He's a scapegoat, and we went into theories of VIP sex scandals and all kinds of stuff. I don't know. The conversation about the 12-year-old really threw me, and I really it got quite heated. It got quite heated. Am I any clearer on my relationship with Gary Glitter? No. And his music? No. But there was something when an original member of the Glitter Band played I Didn't Know I Loved You Till I Saw You Rock and Roll. I was singing along and I was doing the harmonies. Confusing stuff, man. Confusing stuff. I've got a long drive ahead of me. I think I'm going to get in my car and get home. None the wiser. None the wiser.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
Oh, 344 499 1000. So thank you for listening to the last hour or so. You can call in about that. Is it possible to separate the art from the artist? A lot of denial. It's the first time I've heard that in years, because I hate listening to myself. And me and Kath went and sat in the office next door and we listened to it. And I also had a running commentary from Catherine as well. But there's a lot of denial going on, particularly from those last two at the end, who think it was a stitch-up, who think he's innocent, who think it was in post-Savile, that they needed to get someone, and Glitter, Gad was the most similar to Savile, so he was the easy target. And then, of course, which I didn't record, and God, I wish I'd recorded it, the woman was telling me about a 12-year-old or 13-year-old that Glitter, she knew he'd had sex with, but she was asking for it. She was dressed up and she was asking for it, and her parents left her with him, and she was angry with the girl who had been raped by Paul Gary Glitter. And of course, it is difficult to separate the art from the artist, because the child rapist, Paul Gadd, used the allure and the money that Gary Glitter had to attract 12-year-old girls. Where's that lead going again? Look. Just turn the computer off for a minute, because we won't play. But I do also think as well there is a snobbery. There is a snobbery. I mean, Glitter's crimes were particularly heinous, and there were lots of them. But he is more disposable and more plastic and more throwaway than someone like Led Zeppelin, than someone like Elvis Presley. When is Elvis Presley going to get cancelled? He won't. This is why I think Michael Jackson is hovering so much. This film would have killed any other career, retrospectively, the Jackson thing. But because Jackson was so huge, this is why he's still hovering in the twilight of maybe we will support him, maybe we won't support him. Go on, what are you going to say?
Elvis and Jerry Lee have both been relegated to different times, and that was the culture they grew up in. Southern
states where, you had it off with your 13, 14-year-old cousin.
Exactly.
Yeah. Things were different then. Well, how much of that argument does bear weight? Because in periods of this country's history, it was normal to have sex with 11, 12, 13-year-old girls, because you didn't live very long. 11, 12, 13 was middle-aged for some people. It's only a third of their age. So, I'm just saying this because we're just kicking ideas around. Maybe different time, different culture does carry some water. Maybe it does. I don't know. And nothing we're saying here is definitive. We're kicking ideas around, for God's sakes, guys.
Gary Glitter, though, is a very, very different kind of person.
Yep.
Because not only did he serve time for it and was, condemned for it roundly, disgraced in the newspapers, he went on to do it again, quite openly. Remember those pictures? I remember seeing them in The Sun, The Star.
Cambodia.
Him with kids on the back of his bike in Cambodia, quite happily living his life, doing what he wanted to do.
Also, I remember the repentance when he got caught with the pictures of child rape on his computer. He took it into PC World. And I think he said, don't look in that folder. I think he did. And I remember he gave a press conference at Hyde Park Corner, I seem to remember this. And he was repentant. It was obviously a facade now, but he came out and he apologised. But I remember when he did get arrested and there was the whole extradition thing. You remember he was going to different countries and they would not let him get off the plane. Mm-hmm. And he went to Vietnam and Ethiopia and all these, and they said, you're not getting off here. Because if you get off, we ain't going to be able to get rid of you. You're staying on the plane and you're flying out. And he was hopping around the world until he eventually came here. And there was no repentance. There was one interview. I'm sure I got this right. And Roger and Dave, stay there. There's one interview he did. I think it was either in Cambodia or it was when he came back here after Cambodia with the BBC. And he was angry.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was fed up at being pursued as he saw it.
Defiant. He had been wronged. This was outrageous, and it's really interesting. I nearly interviewed him once, but it kind of fell through. It all got a little bit weird. They wouldn't let me record the interview, so I said I ain't doing it with pen and paper because anyway. If you've got any thoughts on that, you can give us a call. Oh, by the way, you can also, we do clunky gear changes here. You can still phone in about, absolute twattishness. If I'm being completely honest, you want to phone in and make silly noises, you're very welcome to do that. Listen, I've missed all the ads so far, so Roger and Dave, stay there. I will come to you straight after this. This is the Late Night Alternative, weeknights from 10 on Talk Radio.
Late night conversation worth losing sleep over. The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Let's go to Roger. Good evening, Roger.
Good evening, Ian and Catherine.
Good evening, Roger. It's nice to speak to you again.
Well, you've got Gary Glitter and your conflicts.
Yeah.
Personal conflicts about his music.
Let me tell you a funny thing. I wouldn't dare play a Gary Glitter song now. I was really thinking about it. Well, do we play one? Do we play one at the start of the hour? And I wouldn't dare. But here's the twist. I don't really know why I wouldn't dare. I'm not going to. But I don't know why. I don't know what would happen. Some people would be upset, obviously. Okay, right, fine. Some people would be upset. We do stuff on the show that upsets people sometimes. But if I played a 3.5 minute song, I mean, I don't know what the worst thing is that could happen.
On Three Counties on a Friday, we used to play religiously. We used to play R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Ignition remix. Wouldn't think of doing it now.
No, of course not.
Because I can't listen to that music without thinking about that animal.
Yeah. No, you're right. But I mean, and I'm not going to. So this isn't a game of chicken, right? But if I played the Leader of the Gang, which is a great song, right? Or Rock and Roll Parts 1 or 2, right? And I really considered playing the instrumental one. I think it's Rock and Roll Part 1, the instrumental. And I considered playing it. What would happen? We'd get some complaints. On a quiet day, we might get a thing in the Daily Mail online. Former jungle contestant offends people by playing, that. And a couple of people might go, well, I'm not listening to you again, and they'd listen to us again in a fortnight. That's it. But I'm scared. I'm hesitant. Whatever it is, I'm reticent to actually play it, and I don't really know why. Anyway, go on. Sorry, Roger.
Because my Gary Glitter is Rolf Harris.
Okay, yeah. Go on.
So I absolutely... Rolf's Cartoon Club were a massive part of my, growing up, watching that on telly.
The Court of King Caractacus. What a song.
Yeah, absolutely loved. I nearly said love. I absolutely loved Rolf Harris's music. I saw him... I might have failed my degree in 1998, but it was the second time I saw him live.
I saw him live. He came to one of our summer balls at university. He was a right miserable old sod. I think as well...
That wouldn't surprise me.
I think I can tell this story. He also asked one of the young women... working backstage, one of the students, so early 20s, for a blowjob.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Did he do it in a jokey way?
I don't remember it well enough. I have to speak to Simon. Simon would remember.
Wow.
Oh,
Simon,
my God.
my friend Simon would remember. Also, he was a miserable sod and was one of those people that was really rude and short with men, but was much better with attractive young women.
A friend of mine, male friend of mine, was going to interview him, and me and another friend had a joke and try and stitch my mate up, saying, "Oh, by the way, say you know about the blue act he does for nightclubs." Oh, that went down like a cold cup of sick.
Yeah, Rolf's an interesting one because when he got sentenced, I was working at BBC WM, and we talked about it on there. And we had loads of people. We had one woman phone up saying, well, I've got a picture of Rolf Harris by my bed, and I'm going to keep it there, which I thought was weird.
First of all, it's weird to have someone you don't know by your bed.
But she was such a big fan.
Right, okay.
Right, such a big fan. And also, there was loads, 4, 5, 6 women, I think, who all said, well, when he comes out of prison, if he does a concert, I'm going to go and see him. And here's the thing. I can't say for sure that I wouldn't go and see Gary Glitter if he did a concert. I can't say for sure. I didn't go to the gang show that year, 97, when he got done for the child rape images on his computer. I didn't go to the gang show then. A friend of mine did at Wembley Arena, and he said it was like half empty, and there were some people that were booing and some people that were enjoying it. I probably wouldn't go. I can't say for definite.
Yeah, I couldn't listen to Rolf stuff anymore.
Not at all.
And I feel guilty because sometimes if something jogs my memory and I think back because there was he always, the 2 concerts I went to see him, he always started by drawing his Rolf Harris, and halfway through his, can you tell what it is yet? Yep. And right at the second time, I knew it was coming, so I yelled out, no, I can't, I'm blind as a bat. And I made him laugh.
Hey! You made a paedophile laugh. How does that make you feel?
I was so proud.
Yeah, of course. That would have been a big moment. Making the laughter make a laugh.
That memory is just totally distressed.
But here's the thing, right? And I've kind of made peace with the fact I have fond memories of going to Gary Glitter concerts, right? Because. Okay, the money I was putting in his pocket probably aided and abetted his crimes. Okay, fine. But I had a laugh those concerts. Me and my mates, it was like we were sort of 16, 17, so it was early drinking days, so we're getting those, watered down pints in those plastic pint glasses. It was, I think one of us had learnt to drive, and it was the whole experience. We went and saw him in a play. He was in a musical. He went out with Denise Van Outen. He went out with Denise Van Outen. You don't hear it when she was like 17 or 18.
Oh, blimey.
They were in a play together called A Slice of Saturday Night, and we went and saw it at the Reading Hexagon, and me and my friends were steaming drunk, and for the whole musical we were just shouting "Leader, leader," and we ruined everybody else's night, which is awful. And so I've got great memories, Roger. And do you know what? I am not, and I hope this isn't in any way disrespectful to any of the victims. I am going to cling on to those good memories because that is an important part of me growing up and learning who I was. And I remember I got so drunk before we went to that thing in Reading to see him. I got drunk at home before my friends came to get me. I pulled the curtains off the rail in my mum's house by mistake. I don't know how I did it. Anyway, I've got... and that's, as the start of my alcoholism, but it's a funny story. And I'm not going to let those memories be tainted. Now, I've made peace with those memories. And I hope that you can at some point with yours. Yeah.
I'm just not sure, to be honest, because it's just... It were... Again, it depends when you got into somebody's music, and I said I was a little bit older. I said it was 97 and 98. I went to see him.
That was around the time of Stairway to Heaven, wasn't it? Yeah.
And that list you went through of all the different. Some of them I'd no knowledge of.
How many? This is a relevant question. Catherine, could you look Rolf Harris conviction? How many victims was he convicted of?
I think it was 3 or 4. There was one that was given. The main evidence was from his daughter's friend who wasn't part of the case because I don't think he got convicted for her because it was too long ago.
Right.
It says here, this is from 4th of July 2014, Rolf Harris has been jailed for nearly 6 years for 12 indecent assaults against 4 girls, including one aged 7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there was a later attempt, wasn't there? And
that.
Hang on. So then 2017 has had 1 of 12 indecent assault convictions overturned, saying it was unsafe.
Okay.
I think it was his daughter's friend who used to come over for sleepovers that gave a lot of the evidence in the first trial.
And yet,
the overturned conviction was about that youngest girl.
Right. Okay. And yet, and how old were the other?
Doesn't say.
Okay.
It says
they were 14, 15. I seem to remember. And yet we're still fine to play Elvis. And yet we're still fine to play Jerry Lee Lewis, whose bride was 13. Yet
and they were the ones they married. Can I just say that?
Yeah, of course. You're absolutely right too. There were more than likely would be others, of course. So what? I don't. It's not. It's inconsistent. That's it. The finger of the shame that we point at these people is inconsistent. If we're going to point it at Rolf Harris, then we have to point it at Elvis Presley, don't we? I think there is a difference. These are all heterosexual rapes of children. I think there is a difference, possibly, when it is an older man raping a younger boy. I don't quite know what that difference is. Again, I'm just thinking out loud, and I haven't really don't know where that sentence goes. I think that perhaps there is a slight difference in as much as it's easier to say 14, 15-year-old girls hanging around rock stars' doors. Do you know what I mean? It's not in any way justifying what has happened. I think it's easier for some people to process in their brains a 15-year-old girl hanging around a stage door than perhaps a 15-year-old
Here's what
boy.
I think. Girls get sexualised by other people younger.
Thank you. That's a clever way of what I was trying to say. Thank you.
That girl is still a child, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But other people don't see it that way.
No.
We still do it now. Look at the way the leery old blokes that write the majority of the red tops go on about flipping Cindy Crawford's daughter, who was a kid. She is a kid.
She was wasn't she 14 when she started modelling? And it was
and
still...
then the countdown to when Charlotte Church was going to be legal, Britney Spears, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So girls, because of the history and the weird history,
You're absolutely right.
Girls get sexualised by other people earlier.
Yeah, like the Mail Online, they're all grown up and all that stuff.
Yeah. But if it's your daughter, that's a child.
I don't know whether things are changing, because I knew there was something I read earlier, and I've just brought it up on my iPad now. The Sheffield Dockfest has cancelled a Q&A with Bill Wyman and cancelled his premiere of his documentary.
Because, of course, he was going out with Mandy Smith when she was 13, I think.
It says, I think it's BBC I'm reading this on, so they're being a bit cagey, but it's like, it says she met him when she was 13. Yeah. And they're married when she was 18, so...
Yeah, and for the 5 years in between, they were just, he was reading books to her.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice one, Roger. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
Cheers, my diz. 0344 499 1000. Dave, stay there. You'll be next. This is the Late Night Alternative on Talk Radio.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
0344 499 1000. Late Night Alternative. Iain Lee, Catherine Boyle. Every weeknight from 10. Listen on DAB. Download the app or go to talkradio.co.uk. Dave is on the line. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Ian. Good evening, Kath.
Hey,
I
Dave.
hope you're well.
Lovely to see you, Dave was one of the nice people that came. Well, the majority of people were nice.
Sober people.
There were the sober people who came to see us in Brighton and was sat next to one of the rude people.
And he was prompt.
Yeah, you know that guy who will go home said, I was part of the show. It was great.
God, this guy wouldn't shut up to the point where... and God knows why I gave him the microphone. It was just I
did think, what the hell are you doing?
But to the point where it was when someone's kind of talking and joining in the show, you sort of you bounce off them a bit. It's not a stand-up show, so it's not but by the end I had to be really rude to him, and he wasn't
taking
the message.
It was like he was talking to the telly.
Yeah. Oh God, what rude family. What a rude family. Whole terrible rude family.
They all came
do you want a
bowling
picture?
in.
Not that desperate. Well, I tell you what, don't put your stuff on our stage, all right? What is this? You an actor or something? Mackenzie,
he put his drink on your table as well.
Mackenzie, when I used to work with Mackenzie, he used to stand up and he did a character called Charlie Cheese, and quite often you'd play on stages that were just pallets and people would put their feet on the stage and you'd go, excuse me, sir, can I ask, are you an actor? No, then get your feet off me effing stage. Which is a great line. Anyway, Dave, what can we do for you?
Yes, I like the Gary Glitter thing. I hadn't heard that before.
Thank you.
And the thing that got to me was the thing that got to Roger, I guess, was the justification. It was the idea, we can understand him, downloading some mucky pictures, but when it comes to actually doing anything physically or actually getting up to any crimes, then that was obviously, something created by the media or because of Jimmy Savile and stuff like that.
That's the thing I found a real head scratcher. A complete denial of the facts, and the whole system is it's such a corrupt pitch, bent pitch that he could be sentenced for something that he hadn't actually done. But then, of course, off mic, the lady at the end said, "Well, actually, he did have sex with a 12 or 13-year-old girl. I can't remember how old she said she was, but it was a setup. She was dressed up like a tar, and the parents took her there. And what was he supposed to do? Well, I tell you what...
Not have sex with a child?
I've been in rooms on my own with 12-year-old girls, and do you know what? I've not touched them. I've not had sex with them, because it's a really easy thing to not do.
But
it's
Ian,
really easy.
What if they had lipstick on?
I know. I've seen kids with it. It's a really easy thing. You don't even have to think about it.
No.
It's not even, my God, I mustn't have sex. It's just like, oh, there's a kid. What do you want to play? What do you want to do? Do you want to watch telly? They're a kid. Yeah. It's really easy to not have sex with kids. I've never done it.
Yeah, it's the same as the line, "Oh, that's what it was like back then." It's just, yeah, but not everyone. Everyone was at it. No, they weren't.
No, they weren't.
No.
Although I do think, right. There's this whole inquiry. I'm not quite sure what this inquiry into child sex abuse is. I thought it was like about VIPs and stuff, but I think it's about child sex abuse all across the board. I do think we're going to look back on the 70s, 80s and 90s and before, 70s, 80s and 90s, and we're going to hear so many more stories of kids getting raped and touched up and molested. And touched up is a flippant thing. But I think we're going to hear I think it was so much more prevalent, right? We all knew a kid who was wetting themselves in class at quite an old age, or was silent, or was a little bit smelly, or you never spoke to. And looking back now, you think, oh my God, it's so obvious. It's so obvious what was probably going on at home. And that was everywhere.
But our eyes were on strangers. Weren't they? It was stranger danger. You were going to be abducted. They were thinking about the Moors murders. They weren't thinking about your creepy dad.
And it's more likely to be a member of the family.
Yeah,
exactly. I read, when I was on holiday, some light holiday reading. Marie, stay there. We're going to come to you next. Some light holiday reading. I finished my book about kids in the hall, which is great, finally. Seth Meyers, I think his name's Seth. And
isn't it Paul Myers? Paul
Myers, thank you very much indeed. Mike Myers' brother. There's a foreword by A. Seth Meyers. And then I read the book that came out last year, Love As Always, Mum, written by Mae West, who was I can't quite remember what position she was, one of Fred and Rose West's daughters. My God. And what's great about it, it's not really about Fred West. It's about her and her relationship with her mum. And it's about her still unsure how involved her mum was, because it was her mum.
Yeah.
And she, by the end, she kind of, spoiler alert, by the end, she pretty much accepts that her mum was involved in all of it, in the murder of her sister Heather and the murder of the other girls and the sexual abuse and all of that. She's pretty sure. You read it, Kath, because I'd love to get your thoughts on it. And it's a grim book, but she seems pretty sure. But for most of the book, she's like, I just can't believe my mum would do that. My dad, yeah. My dad was weird. My dad tried to grope us. My dad would say horrible, horrible things. And yeah, sure, my mum was there when he groped us. And sure, my mum would beat us. And my mum would bully us. And she would, my mum and dad, we lived in a basement that to get into the basement, we slept in the basement. And to get there, we had to go to the side door and they would lock us in the basement and it was damp. And they would lock the door and leave us in there. And sure, my mum, looked between my legs when I had my first period and sure, all of that. But I just can't believe that she murdered my sister Heather and that she was responsible. And it's incredible. It's an incredible story of a woman trying to come to terms with the evidence that is there in front of her and going, but no, my dad, yeah. But no, I cannot believe my mum did that. I won't believe it. It's such an amazing story, and it's so, I want to say the word beautifully, and I'm going to say it, even though it's horrific. It's so beautifully told, and she's got a ghostwriter, but it's just the confusion and the self-doubt, and it's amazing. It's a really incredible book.
But that is classic sexual abuse survivor feelings.
Yeah.
Like Oprah Winfrey, I saw her do this brilliant interview, I don't know if you've seen it, with the guys from Leaving Neverland, and she said she's a sexual abuse survivor from when she was a kid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And she said it was the first time she's ever seen that conflict played out like that.
Yeah.
Saying someone that you love, someone that makes you feel special, someone that groomed you, you were manipulated into feeling certain things.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was nice. And she said it's that thing that adds to the guilt when you're an adult, and that is the thing that's going to stop you from speaking out. And it's that, that kind of... But they weren't always like that. There were so many bits of it that were nice that I was willing to put up with the other bits because they felt weird, but it wasn't the whole of the picture, that thing. And I just found that really interesting.
There seems to be a strange sliding scale, as you say, of, who gets the worst treatment by the press. I mean, you would all have heard Phil Spector's Christmas album. How many producers have got their name on the front of albums, apart from Phil Spector? Very few. He shot someone in the face. But that's sort of it. And it reminded me, if you remember from Brasseye, the Mad as a Lorry, Mad Frankie Freightometer, where he was asked to put on what was worse.
Yes, I do remember that vaguely,
grassing up someone. Remember, fiddling with the kids, as he put it, was right off the scale as far as he was concerned. And that's what it seems to be, I mean, if you're not talking about music, Leslie Grantham, who
murdered a taxi driver in a bungled robbery, didn't he, in Germany? Yeah,
but he became one of the most famous men in the country during the 80s.
And it is well, this is the thing that Kath mentioned about making amends and redemption. And can you? I think there are some things that you can sort of come back from if you show enough remorse. Remorse is the word I'm looking for.
Well, I'm a massive Costello fan. And you've read his overlong book.
Well, I've listened to the audiobooks. So I missed huge bits.
In there, he skirted around the incident. It was only about 40 years ago.
With the fight with Stephen Stills.
Stephen Stills and Bonnie Bramlett, where they were drunk in a bar, and he was saying, all American music is rubbish. And they started throwing names at him, and he said, James Brown. I'm not going to use the language.
Was it James Brown? I thought it was Ray Charles.
No, the first one was James Brown.
Right.
He said, he's nothing but a jive arse.
Yeah.
And then N-word.
Yeah.
And then he said, what about Ray Charles? And he said, he's a blind ignorant. And at that point, Bonnie Bramlett punched him and he fell off his chair.
Yeah, yeah.
And because Elvis, during this part of his career and part of what his manager did, they wouldn't give interviews to the press. They were nasty. They were just arrogant. When you see the man today, you don't sort of put those two things together. But at that point, he was a snotty, punky sort of, and of course, this came out in the press, and the press just went for him, and it killed his career in America. Yeah. And he was sort of a pop star at that point, and I doubt he would have carried on being that. But it certainly just killed him dead in America. But Ray Charles was asked at the time, and he said, quite graciously, I thought, you should listen to a man's music, not his drunken bar talk, which is fair enough.
Well, and that is if he did say that, which is quite big of him, but also that is the thing of separating the art from the artist completely.
Also, Ray Charles will have heard a lot of that crap over his time, wouldn't he?
But Elvis said that he, years later, because he's married to Diana Krall, who's obviously a jazz pianist, there were points where he could have met Ray Charles, and he just couldn't do it because he knew that even if Ray Charles wouldn't remember it because it was 40 years ago, he just couldn't do it. And it's quite interesting in the book. He doesn't actually address the actual incident itself. He sort of says, and after that.
Because if he'd have been able to suck it up and sit down with Ray Charles and say, look, I don't know if you heard, but I kind of said some pretty shitty things about you, and I just want to apologize. That would have been a huge moment. That would have been a turning point in a human being's life to be able to do that. But that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, I just thought he just couldn't face, because he knew that even though Ray Charles put in, he knew it was drunk and bar talk. There's no excuse, and I just think he just felt, I just can't, I can't face that. And there are other, say your Eric Clapton, and he sort of apologised for that. But not that convincingly in my book.
It wasn't particularly convincing. Dave, I've got to go because I've missed every single ad break in this entire show, and I'm going to get a letter home to my mum, and God, she doesn't even know I work in show business. Dave, thank you very much. Marie, stay there. You'll be next. This is Talk Radio.
After hours amusement for anarchists, air hostesses, and jet-lagged Antipodeans.
G'day, coppers. Can I crash on your floor?
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
It's good to be back. I really enjoyed what I heard of you last week. It was brilliant. I was kind of tired, and I was in bed playing a little bit of PlayStation on. I've got this little handheld bootleg thing. I was playing PlayStation on it, or I was reading my Rose West book, or I was, talking to my eldest, who was me a lonely guy.
Oh.
Dude, go back to bed. Me a lonely guy. They got such a weird turn of phrase. Me, a lonely guy?
It worked, though, didn't it?
It did work. He got in bed with me. It's great fun. We got Paul Ross at 1 o'clock. Let's go to Marie. Good evening, Marie.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Marie. What have you got for us?
Well, I'm a daughter of a Gary Glitter fan.
Oh, blimey, go on. Still a Gary Glitter fan?
So, well, she is, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, she still is a little bit. She tries to say that, you know, he's been stitched up and whatnot like this and all that.
Yeah.
But I can remember going to the London Arena when it was the London Arena on the Docklands.
Oh yeah, it was the London Arena. Yes, well remembered.
Yeah.
Yes. I forgot that.
And Susie Quattro was the support.
Yeah.
And the place was empty, completely empty, with Susie doing her bit. The moment Gary came on the stage, the place was packed.
Jeez, imagine standing at the bar while Susie Quattro is on.
Exactly.
Dear God! Susie Quattro, Devilgate Drive?
And this is what power he had. All the guys came out the bar
Yeah.
when Susie came on. And I remember as a kid, I mean, my mum dressed me up like a blooming Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I had the tints around me, glitter in my hair and whatnot, shoving me to the front.
Yeah.
Might as well have a neon sign above me.
How old were you when you went, Marie?
Oh, I'm going to say about 6 or 7.
Oh, wow, so you were proper little then?
Well, yeah, but my mum and dad were music fans.
Yeah.
I've met you a few times at Monkey events.
Oh. Did we meet at the Royal Albert Hall one with Davey?
Yes, we did, and at the Cavern as well.
Oh, at the Cavern. Flipping heck, that was good, wasn't it?
That was a brilliant one, yeah. That was quite sweaty, though.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it was. Also, I felt bad because it wasn't the real Cavern.
No, yes, absolutely.
I think you kind of think, all right, we're all pretending this is the Cavern, but we know it's not the real Cavern. Why don't we just call it something else?
It's now my local.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great little venue, but it's not the Cavern.
It is what it is. It is what it is, isn't it?
We saw a monkey at the Cavern. That was.
It was amazing.
But I've been taking. I mean, were you at the Hammersmith Odeon gig when it was Mickey and Peter?
Yes.
Because I had my eldest then, and gosh, he would have been 5, just about to turn 6, I think. Was not 6, about to turn 7, I don't think. Anyway, he was young, and that was one of his first gigs. And I've been taking my boys to gigs since they were about 6 to see. I think the first one I took the eldest to was Brian Wilson. You know, I'm taking them to see the classics while those guys are still with us. But we've been to. You know, I think it's great. There's nothing better, Marie, and I bet your mum had this at the Gary Glitter thing, right? There is nothing better than seeing one of my favourite artists when they're singing one of my favourite songs, and I've got the two people I love the most in the world next to me. Remember I took both boys, and I think it was the first gig for my youngest, maybe the second, to see the Beach Boys, and we had crap seats in the Royal Albert Hall right at the top. But when the Beach Boys started singing God Only Knows, and I had my arms around the two most precious little bundles with me, my favourite song, one of my favourite bands, it was magic. And I bet your mum had the same experience with you as a 6-7-year-old at Gary Glitter.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But you know, when you said that you were listening to the Glitter band and you felt a bit like, oh, should I be liking this? And you know, you were singing along and whatnot. I went to, just recently, I think it was 2 years ago, and I know I don't want to put them in the same brackets as each other, but I went to see Jason Donovan's 10 Good Reasons tour.
Oh.
Now, I haven't heard that album since I first.
That's a great record.
Absolutely. But I hadn't listened to the album. You know, I had it on cassette. I haven't had a cassette player for years.
Yeah.
So I had, the broke Too Many Broken Hearts. You know, Every Day I Love You More. I remember them too because they're played on, the music channels.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I went on my own because I didn't want to pay anybody ticket who didn't like him. And do you know what? I sung every word. Now I haven't heard that since '89. It's something in our head.
Oh, mate, that's in there. Do you know what? I was big into Jason Donovan when I was about 15, 16, and I've not heard that album since then. I preferred the second album, if I'm completely honest. The third album was a load of old crap. But when he wanted to become a serious pop star, and it was something like All Around the World. It's
We've
terrible.
all been through that one.
Oh, it was all, exactly. But I've not heard the first album for years. But yeah, you're right. If I put it on, I could probably sing along with. It's funny. It becomes ingrained in you because when you're a teenager, it's so important. You absorb it in your pores.
Yeah. And you're still growing at the time as well, so it's part of your growth. Really, if that sounds icky, but it's part of your growth. And I think that's where you are a bit like, because Mum still puts on. If we have in our YouTube dark old nights when I go down to visit her, she will put on a Gary Glitter song just to see what I'm saying, because I'm always saying, turn it down a bit, you know, don't let the neighbours hear.
Yeah. Well, it is, but here's the thing. I do think it's okay to listen to those things definitely in private.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, because we all have our own personal connections with music and with artists or TV appearances and I think in private, definitely. I can understand why some people would be I'm trying to find the right word. Upset? It's not quite strong enough. But why some people would struggle if I were to play a Gary Glitter song now.
Yeah.
You know, I totally understand that. Of course I do.
And, you know, you might get royalties or whatnot.
Well, here's the thing with Glitter. I thought he'd sold them to pay for legal fees, but I don't totally. But also, then there's all the other. You know, all of the good Gary Glitter songs were basically Mike Leander who wrote them and produced them and played all of the instruments. It wasn't the Glitter band.
Well, the Spice Girls sing it in the Spice World, don't they? They sing "Leader of the Pack" in the Spice World movie.
There is. If you go, he was in the Spice World movie, and then the child rape images came out. And if you look, there's a really if you go and watch Spice World, there's a massive clunky edit where they cut his bit out, and it really is. I
didn't realise that.
If you go on YouTube, you can see his bit. That his bit does exist, but there is a huge clunky edit where they sort of start singing "Leader of the Gang." Come in, Paul. They sort of start singing "Leader of the Gang," and then they cut to the end of "Leader of the Gang." Marie, thank you very much indeed. Paul Ross is in. Hey, Paul.
Well, of course, left in the Spice World movie was Michael Barrymore, who had his own trouble slightly later.
Yeah, of course. But then found completely innocent,
of course,
wasn't he? And then he was supposed to get... Barrymore's fascinating. He was supposed to get like a multi-million-pound payout recently because of the way he was treated by the police, and then it went back to court, and court said, no, we're actually going to give you £1 for it. You know,
I was in a thing co-written by him and Jeff Pope, who wrote the Laurel and Hardy film recently. Bob Mills co-wrote it, called Bob Martin.
Now, were you in that?
I was in that as myself, and I played, actually, not much of a character myself. I'd do anything for money in it.
Yeah.
Shane Ritchie was in my episode, Anthea Turner.
Yeah.
And he was very good in that because he was kind of able to distance himself from his public persona. Very intelligent man, I thought.
It was
only met him that time. The only time I ever met him.
It was kind of like a British Larry Sanders.
Yeah, it was. It was attempts at that,
Wasn't it? Yeah.
And it wasn't quite as funny as it should have been. Tracy Ann Oban was in it as his PA or agent or something. So there's some great people in it, good actors around. I think Keith Allen was in it as well.
Right.
I think.
There's a gentleman.
And they used Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Part 2 in Small Soldiers, the not bad animated film.
Oh, that's good, that film.
Yeah.
Well, because that's played all the baseball games, or it certainly was. If a home run was scored, they play Rock and Roll, hey! And because
it's like he was in the room there. Paul Raven, Paul Gadd, whatever his real name is.
Paul Raven, yeah. Paul, what's on your show tonight?
On the show tonight, a fascinating story, I hope, from the world of science, with not one but two leading researchers, a professor no less and his research assistant. They've been working with slug slime. And they're convinced that slug slime, I can barely say it without sounding like Cliff Eubank, slug slime can be used to not only prevent scarring as an agent on, if people have been cut, but also to kind of remove toxicity and remove infection. So coming to a hospital near you, purifying slug slime.
I know some women have snail facials.
Oh, of course they do. Yeah, they do, don't they?
So I imagine it's not that far.
But this guy wants to use them in surgical procedures, not the way they used to use. They still do in some cases leeches and even maggots to eat away decomposing or gangrenous flesh. But no, to use the agent in slug slime as a kind of panacea for surgery to reduce scarring.
They do the maggots in British hospitals
now.
I
know. Didn't Gatford have it?
Yeah, he did. Gatford had it. If you got your flesh is rotting away, you whack a load of maggots on it. And
I had a very quick, fantastic experience with maggots.
You got 20 seconds. Go on.
Okay. We did an item on the 6 o'clock show as a researcher when fishermen used to have their maggots frozen and they would defrost them for sea fishing under their tongue. So an item in the studio, who could hold the maggots under their tea time show, charming, for the longest.
6 o'clock show. Yeah.
Okay, so somebody won it and they got a little prize, and I was in charge of the maggots, and I put them in the Weekend World fridge and forgot about them. Came in Monday morning and they'd all hatched inside the fridge, and when they opened it like a horror film, a huge plague of blue bottles came out.
All that and less coming up after 1. This is Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
We got entertainment, and we're not afraid to use it. Talk Radio.